Okay, Anirudh, we're live. You can start now.
Okay, so welcoming all to the second day of the electrifying event, Concord-Plinth for Innovation. I'm almost certain that a lot of you were aboard with us yesterday as well. And I do believe the vibrant and invigorating talks motivated you to come back for the second day. And hey, there's a third day as well. Some of you, on the other hand, might possibly not have attended yesterday's session. But no worries, you have still not lost the chance to access it. Be sure to check the recording of the session on our YouTube channel. Link is in the description. No, just kidding, just kidding. Check the video after today's session on our page. So just to recall about us, the Entrepreneurship Cell, better known as the E-Cell of IIT Bombay, is Asia's largest student-run non-profit entrepreneurial body, which focuses primarily at manifesting the latent talents of prospective entrepreneurs from all walks of college life, giving a chance to all future entrepreneurs to learn new skills, present their ideas, and even build them further with our round the year events such as Eureka, eSummit, hackathons, etc. We have even introduced Eureka Junior to promote an entrepreneurial spirit in students between grade 6 to grade 12, present their ideas and make them big. Coming back to what we have in store for you today, we have a set of a few really remarkable, highly experienced, needless to say, successful individuals from all walks of the industry, stretching from production and engineering to online commerce and from software engineering to social entrepreneurship. I'm very sure that you're super psyched to lend an ear to this compelling, inspiring, and gripping presentation from our distinguished speakers. And yes, if time permits, we would allow you all to even ask questions to these speakers. Just make sure to put them in the Q&A section and not in the chat section of the website or app that you're using. Now, we all love freebies and prizes, don't we? So, wherever you are, you stand a chance to win some exciting freebies. All you have to do is share screenshots or images of your favorite moments from the session, or a selfie of you attending the session, maybe. Probably some information about your favorite speaker of the day, what you like the most in the session, and most importantly, do not forget to tag all your friends in these posts. Use the hashtags hashtag Concord, hashtag Plinth for Innovation, and hashtag ECell underscore IIT Bombay in these posts. Share them on social media like Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and stand a chance to win some exciting gifts. Hmm, let's enjoy the freebies, right? Do not forget the hashtags hashtag Concord, hashtag Plinth for Innovation, and hashtag ECell underscore IIT Bombay. Now, together, let's make our Herculean presence in the virtual world visible to all our friends and family members. Be sure to inform all your entrepreneurial aspiring friends who have registered for the session to attend the mind grabbing talks from our remarkable speakers, in case they haven't already joined. Also, be sure to tell all your friends about the new things you have learned and share a fact or two with your friends. After all, you did put the effort to pay attention to all those small details. Why not show others who's the boss? Also, a suggestion, if you wish to take down some notes or points from the session which you think could be useful for the near and distant future, after all, you never know that one small thing a speaker said years ago could be the motivation for your path breaking idea. Also, be sure to be in the session like a real entrepreneur, not just a student, which means try to understand what the speakers say from a real world perspective. Try to build scenarios in your mind where their tips and strategic strong points could be useful. Try to hear all the anecdotes so that you don't make the same mistakes as someone else did. And you also know what to do in situations others might be dumbfounded at. And remember one thing, entrepreneurship is not all about quotes, capital, and corporations. It's all about an idea, one small idea, and the innovation and motivation to pursue that idea. Okay, so we talked a bit about entrepreneurship, but did you know that networking is one of the most important skills in entrepreneurship? So much so that there is an entire set of business individuals dedicated to the study of the field called business networking. Being a student myself, I understand that a lot of us are hesitant when it comes to networking, fearing judgment, or just the idea of networking seems all Greek and Latin. Fear not. We have brought for you an opportunity to start networking right here in the Concord event. All you have to do is wait till the end of all speaker talks, after which we will open the session for networking, in which you can connect or speak to other individuals attending this session and start building your network. So speaker sessions plus Q&A and now even networking. So do remember to stick to the end of the session and be with us to build possibly your first business network contacts ever. Also, do not feel hesitant to ask questions. Just remember them to put them in the Q&A section of the app and not the chat section. Okay, not taking any more of your time. Let's start. Gear up for an exciting adventure of learning, asking, relearning, innovating, ideating, and networking. The first speaker we have with us here today is Mr. Kishore Jayaraman. So just to give you a brief introduction, we are honored to have Mr. Kishore Jayaraman with us, of course. He's currently heading the South Asian division of Rolls-Royce. He has had over 31 years of experience in various portfolios. He believes in building capabilities as an empowered team and has a very unique approach to a lot of barriers and aspects of the industry. He completed his master's in mechanical engineering in 1987 from the Oklahoma State University. In 2004, he completed his MBA from the Terry School of Business at the University of Georgia. And after having worked several portfolios in various companies, he took over as the president of Rolls-Royce, India and South Asia, way back in 2012. Under his leadership, Rolls-Royce has achieved many remarkable goals. An important one of them is the work towards collaborating with the Indian defense industry and also extending hands with companies sharing similar goals such as HAL and TCS. He's also a staunch proponent of policies like Make in India. Interesting fact, in 2017, the company set up a digital hub called R Square Labs in Bengaluru to leverage the digital workforce of the country. He also has been influential in Rolls-Royce Industry 4.0. We could keep speaking about him all day long, but I believe all of us would be very keen to hear what he has to share with us. So without further ado, a hearty welcome to Mr. Kishore Jayaraman. Also, we have with us Mr. Shinil Shekhar, who's the co-founder of AirPix, which is best described by its tagline, Aerial Data Collection Simplified, which was also one of the 6 startups selected by Airbus Biz Labs. We can be certain that this talk would fruit out to be really exciting. It's a privilege to have both of you with us here today, sir. And handing it over to you, Shinil, sir.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Nice to meet you, Mr. Kishore. How are you doing? You're on mute, Mr. Kishore.
I look out for that, but I missed it again.
No, that's the new way of saying, how are you? Am I audible?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here. It's a pleasure to be here with you all.
Pleasure to be like having a fireside chat with you, sir.
Yes.
So let's start our discussion. I believe the topic is how much of an impact we have in Industry 4.0 in India, and how has this Make in India campaign overall, affected this entire Industry 4.0 in India. So let's start with this. How much of an adoption do you see in India of Industry 4.0?
Well, it is, look, manufacturing itself, Make in India has been about manufacturing footprint in India. Right. And, it was about 16%, and right now it's about 17, 18%, give or take a few. So really the increase in manufacturing has not been where it should have been with the clarion call for Make in India, right? Having said that, now we should look at Industry 4.0 separate from that topic, right? Yes, if manufacturing increases, the question becomes one of, is it manufacturing in a 3.0 framework or is it a manufacturing in a 4.0 framework? As far as I am concerned, and when I look at the Industry 4.0, I kind of look at it and say that, look, now you have more digital capabilities, right? And so what it does is it enhances the human digital interface. So the machine to the digital environment, to the human environment, are becoming more and more. The intersection between these three continue to increase, right? And as it increases, we have to look at it and say which operations lend themselves to more and more of automation, which operation lends itself to more and more of manual labor. And regardless of manual or totally automated environments, digital is going to be the foundation because data is going to be collected from either one of these environments. The data enhancement has happened purely because you have more storage capability and you have more computing capability. Once you have more storage and more computing, it is but a natural phenomenon that you would move into an environment where you're going to look at the data to do both reactive maintenance as well as preventive maintenance. So I think that is the world we are living in. As far as India goes, we have to look at it and say that, look, whatever operations are there, are we doing a good job at it already? And now if you want to increase the efficiencies of the operation, you need to use the data. And if you're going to use the data, you're already in the digital world, which means you're already stepping into the Industry 4.0 realm, right? Have we got to be completely automated in order to say that we are Industry 4.0? Or should we say that we are just touching on the fringes of automation to say that, oh my God, now I'm Industry 4.0? Well, that's left to the imagination of everyone. As far as I'm concerned, look, it's an evolution. It's not a revolution. With enhancements in technology, with enhancements in capabilities, it is but a natural progression in order to use the tools available to better the productivity and the efficiencies. Because the betterment of the productivity and the efficiencies are what are going to create better bottom lines for companies and better, better whatever it is for the stakeholders. And I was thinking of just leaving it as profit, but I don't think it's just a profit.
Not just a profit.
It's more than just a profit, right?
Right. It overall brings in that level of transparency, throughout the chain, from the stakeholders to the user.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So this thing when you're looking at Industry 4.0, it's kind of a good sweet spot for India, right? We are trying to bring in as much automation, which involves a lot of computing, IT, which has been traditionally the stronghold of India. And at the same time, we are trying to kind of optimize the manpower involvement in the manufacturing processes. So how do you see this going ahead? Do you see India this helping India to be a more manufacturing hub, or do you see Industry 4.0 products and services exported from India? What's your perception on this?
So again, I'd look at it and say that when the manufacturing footprint increases, right? Let's say, for example, we take the FMCG. In the FMCG market, you're going to have to produce more and more of the goods based on the consumption. And India has moved from a point of minimal consumption to maximum consumption today. Everybody knows in every nook and corner of India what is available, what they can purchase, and we want better and better things to live with. So the consumption has increased, which means, just to pick on FMCG for a minute, the people buying more and more goods is going to increase, which means you're going to produce more and more goods. If you produce more and more goods, then you just need to figure out there's only 24 hours a day and there's only 365 days a year. Either you expand the factories, which means that you're going to have more and more footprint, which is not really great because your capital costs keep going up and your return on investments have to be balanced. Your price goes up. It's a very different equation. So what you need to really do is, how do I optimize my existing facilities so that they are actually working 150%? If you're working at about 80%, it's actually a very good thing. But then if you can operate at about 120%, it makes it that much better. So that is where automation kicks in, and that's where digital kicks in, and that's where, if machines can talk to each other and if the cells can coordinate with each other, then the output of the factories will go up. And if the output goes up, this is going to happen. So as far as India is concerned, I see that the output requirements are only going to increase, right? And the reason is very simple. It is just purely consumption. You saw the airlines industry. You saw the number of flights that I've operated since when I was growing up. If you take 30 years back when I graduated, there were like 15 aircrafts in India. Today, you look at it, you have 1,000 aircrafts in India, right? And all this didn't happen over the period of 30 years or something. All this happened over a period of last 10 years, or 15 years, even 15 years, right? And I think the speed at which these things are evolving is just tremendous. And I think you will see the pace increase even more. And as pace increases, how quickly companies are able to adapt and deliver to that change in requirements at pace is going to matter. And I think that's what we start calling agility. Right?
Got it. Got it. So like now we spoke in terms of geography. Now let's like how much is Industry 4.0 touching the defense space, the manufacturing? What's going on over there? Like rest all manufacturing, we get to know a lot, but then defense and aerospace related information or something that is pretty secluded. Yeah. So if you could just throw a little bit information on that front, yeah.
Look, I mean, it was not very long ago that India actually was purchasing about 70% of the defense equipment, right? And so the need of the hour was for India to start figuring out how to indigenize a lot of things.
Right.
And so that initiative has been going on minimal for 10 years now, right? We still have to we still have to procure technologies that are not available with us. But we also have to figure out a mechanism where, number one is the procured technologies we have the capability to service in this country. And if we cannot procure any technology for whatever reasons, we are able to create those technology by ourselves, right? And the third initiative is to say that if you're going to get into manufacturing more and more, then you get into the Industry 4.0 setup and say, do I really need to have more automation, more digital, more of all these things that we talked about just before, right? As far as I think in terms of 70% of purchase or imports into India, it's been reducing very steadily, right? And I think it will continue to increase more and more. As you notice, the geopolitics around us is tremendous. You got China on one side, Pakistan on one side, right? And you got to make sure that India is able to protect herself, right? And I think for us, that gives us a need. And that's why the Atmanirbhar, even though it is beyond just defense, I think defense is a place where absolutely it applies. Right. And so the momentum of reducing the imports, combined with the ability to make that stuff locally in India, combined with our ability to say that, okay, now I can make it in India, now I'm going to create it in India. And so I will own the technologies, and slowly the curve has to reach a bottom in terms of imports, and it has to start increasing in terms of exports. Right. And I think that journey is on. But unfortunately, developing technologies in aerospace, making bullets is easy. Making bulletproof vests is easier. But when you're talking about drones, when you're talking about combat aircraft, when you're talking about transport aircraft that lands at very high altitudes, you're getting into really complexity of things. And I think that is where what Rolls-Royce has been trying to do is help India and say that we would like to partner with you and we'd like to co-create technologies. Right? Our goal is to co-create technologies so that there is true Atmanirbhar. At the end of the day, if you don't own the technologies, Atmanirbhar is only to a certain degree. The more we own technologies, we are completely in control. And I think that's probably, I would say for the near future, I would say it is the goal. In the longer term, it is going to be to excel in those technologies, have patents from India that the world will want, and sort of show the world that we have the capacity, we have the capability, and here are the results to prove that.
Got it. Great. So having talked about like the Make in India and the Atmanirbhar campaign, like what kind of movement do you see on ground? Like how much is it affecting our overall ecosystem? How much is it helping the startups? What's your take on that?
Look, I think in startups perspective, I am not very sure on the defense side, right? Because I've not heard a whole lot of things going on from a defense side. It is nothing to say that it's not there or not, but it's not something I have interacted with very closely. There's been a lot of conversations. We have tried to see what best we can do with the startups in terms of defense. But in principle, it has not been something that has been, growing at an extremely rapid pace. But having said that, in defense, like I said, it's about co-creation of technologies. We have sold our products in this country. We provide services in this country, right? Since the very first day, we have done Indian Air Force aircraft has Rolls-Royce engines, right? Today, in combat, in transport, and in training, Rolls-Royce has aerospace products in there, right? In terms of frigates, destroyers, aircraft carriers, Rolls-Royce has products in there, right? We have to figure out how we can do the services locally, right? Which we do. So we have local service centers. We have to figure out how we can do engineering out of this country because the talent is available. So we're doing engineering in this country. Now we have to look at digital. We created the Center of Excellence in Bangalore for digital. So every step of the way, right? I mean, there is, it is a fabric and you got to build it piece by piece because this is this concerns a lot of things. It involves two different governments. It involves technologies that one country may give to the other or want or not want. It's a very complex brew that we are all having to work with. And so in that regard, I would say startups have a lot of opportunity. I would say startups in the defense space will be fantastic. I know of suppliers who I have seen about 10 years back who were doing nothing. Today, they are creating for the BrahMos missile parts, etc. Right? And they are very integral part of the Ministry of Defense. And I have seen people who have just, India, big companies like Bharat Forge, Tatas, right? They have all gotten their Mahindras, they've all gotten there. And they have been able to get in there and say, how do we start somewhere? We become a we become a part of the value chain. But at the same time, they're also looking at how do I keep growing more and more into more complex technologies, into doing more stuff for ourselves, right? So I think the journey has begun, and the end is not somewhere in the near future. It's going to be a very long journey because it's going to be a need for a long time to come. But I think when we talk about it, is just a question of, do we have the need? And I think we have the need. Right. When we have the need, I believe that we have whatever it takes to do it, because I don't think talent is in shortage in India. Right. It is just, it's like a flood of water. Right. If you figure out the first year there's a flood coming, and the second year we channel that flood, I think there'll be no drought.
Right. Very well said. Yeah, definitely. Very well. So can you just give some more information about the R2 Labs, like what the labs is doing, what is its vision, and what are its near-time and long-term goals?
So for us, we had very good luck with the engineering center we had in Bangalore, right? So we built our engineering team based on a little bit of cost arbitrage. So it was a capacity center. We saw a lot of engineers availability, talent available. So we built an outsourced model that we did before. Then we said we wanted to do more systems capabilities instead of just component capabilities. So in the systems world, we need to have more IP with ourselves. So we created our own capability center in Bangalore. Now, as we did this, we figured out the company's vision was to go towards digital and electric. There were two areas as a global company, Rolls-Royce decided would be focus areas for us. When these focus areas came out, we said, how do we put the sort of momentum behind it and put more and more onus on this visionary couple of areas that we wanted to get into? And so we created the R2 Data Labs to give it a separate entity and a separate look and a separate charter. When that was formed, it was but a natural progression because of the success of the engineering center that we said, look, India has got the talent to do it, right? And so we brought people in here, and our whole idea of digital was simple, right? We had data, we had to monetize the data in some form. That was one thing, and we also had to learn from the data. We had to make sure the company of 55,000 people were able to understand digital. So we had to put it in everybody's mind what digital was all about. And the third most important thing was, eventually, we'd like to get into a digital twin world. Whether it be a production facility, whether it be an engineering model that we're creating, the ability should exist where I can do everything in a computer with a digital twin. So what happens in that world is that you are in principle avoiding a lot of costs related to prototypes. Some of them are destructive testing. Some of them are non-destructive testing. When you get into destructive testing, you don't want to be in the mode of more and more destruction. It's cost, right? So I think that was the vision of the company, and we started leveraging our people here. And along the way, what we said was it's good to have partners like TCS because they have been great in terms of sort of doing work in the digital space. So we partnered with them, and it's been a good partnership for both the companies. And we basically said, okay, we have our own teams doing some work. We do the logics, we do the interpretation, some data are sensitive. And then we have all the platforms, we have other areas that we can work with TCS and figure out how to get it done. And it's been a successful journey for us. Now, I think it's been about 3.5 years. And I think we continue to, kind of keep ratcheting it up. And one of the latest initiatives is called as the ecosystem development. The ecosystem development is to figure out how we can partner with maybe the Digital India schemes. Maybe we can partner with the universities in India. Maybe we can partner with the industry in India. Then we can sort of take digital from where it is Rolls-Royce doing it for Rolls-Royce needs, to something that's a little bit more of involving the local ecosystem, bringing them on board, working with them, and sort of doing what it takes from that space. So as always, when you start these new initiatives, it's never easy, right? And we always have to figure out how to get more and more done without compromising the need for time and cost, right? And so it has been a balance. It has been frustrating sometimes, but it's been extremely exhilarating sometimes. So, but overall, I can just say it's been a great learning experience.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And anything with on the academic front, like are you trying to get in kind of, technology collaboration with any of the academies or institutes so that, students get to see these technologies at a very early stage and start contributing and learning stuff from the best?
So look, globally, we partner with about 37 different universities, right? And to be very honest, in India, in fact, including IIT Mumbai, IIT Chennai, IIT Concord, there's been a lot of things that we've been wanting to do and trying to do. And, the impetus for these things usually has happened worldwide when there are programs that are created. If you take the United States or you take United Kingdom, I think there the government puts in programs into the universities. In our case, in India, the government puts in these programs into the government organizations like DRDO, GTRE, ADA. I mean, whether it be in the field of pharma, whether it be in the field of aerospace, I think as more and more programs come about, it's not like the private sector cannot go about saying that, okay, let's form this collaboration. The initiative always has to be driven by the government. Right. And I think when the government is, and Niti Aayog is taking the leadership in that, we are looking at catapult centers, what to do, how to do it. We have done 7 of those around the world. We are looking at working with universities like IIT Mumbai, IIT Chennai, and trying to figure out how is it that this collaboration is going to be a win-win.
Okay.
Right. From our side, we are looking for outcomes that will change our products and services. Right. From the university side, yes, there is a learning experience, but it's also an industry interaction experience, right. And it's displaying the capability that's there. But that again is another thing where I think more and more of industry are partnering with academia. More and more of the government, initiatives are coming up where it supports the academia and it supports industries to work with academia. So I think the journey itself has begun. Just like, look, India has so many opportunities. And I think our Honorable Prime Minister Modi said it very well in his interview with President Joshi in the UK. And, everybody looks at the cup as half full. And we all said that the cup is half empty. And he said the other half of the cup is filled with air. We just need to fill it with liquid. I loved it because I think it's a very different way of looking at things, right? I mean, when you say it's empty, it's a very different feeling than when you say it's filled with air.
Right.
Because filling it with air means that you're just having to substitute with something else.
Right.
I think that's where we are in a lot of these things we talked about. Make in India, Entrepreneurial, Industry 4.0, in all these different areas, the train has left the station. Now we know that there is a destination. It is just a question of how do we give the train enough fuel so that it will keep moving faster and faster and faster so that we reach our destination much quicker. Right? And that is what I feel India is at. And I think the world recognizes it. Companies like Rolls-Royce completely recognize it. And so now it is the question of, I think the inter-government relationships are very good with a lot of government people because it's going to be extremely important in certain areas. And the new, the new world that we are in with COVID, I think pharma has taken such a huge importance in life that pharma is going to become, it's going to be equal to cybersecurity. Protecting pharma intelligence is going to be the next wave of protecting intelligence. Right?
Yeah, that's...
And so, relationships are going to matter, collaborations are going to matter. And I think it's going to be, and India is doing all the right things at this point in time. So I'm very bullish about where we can end up being. Yes, it's a journey. Yes, it'll be fraught with a lot of challenges, but we will overcome this.
That's pretty encouraging. That's a very valid point, and that's pretty encouraging. So now let's come to the point, like, because of this entire Industry 4.0 drive, how much of shift do you see in the employment, like shift in the need of employment, the volume of employment, and what kind of skills should students and should people focus on, considering that in the manufacturing space itself, the involvement of human is going to reduce over a period of time for menial things? Well,
look, I think in terms of employment, the question always is, do I need to have Industry 4.0, which is what the industry people have to accept and understand, right? In the Western world, always there was a chase to get more and more automation, to get more and more this thing, because they had a labor shortage. right? So India does not have a labor shortage.
Right.
But what India has is a lot of people that need to be talented. They're all talented people, but they have to be skilled so that their talent and the skill matches in order to gain the maximum output.
Right.
Right. As you know, in any Six Sigma process, the manual labor will only contribute up to 4 Sigma.
Right.
Now, everybody wants to be at the 6 Sigma levels in terms of output, right?
Right.
So how do you bridge the 4 to 6 Sigma is going to be your question on automation and everything else, right? So people will have to learn how to interact. Can you still hear me? Good. So people will have to learn how to interact with machines more, which means we have to upskill them. And upskilling is not something we have to do at the college level. We need to do upskilling at every level.
Right.
Everybody keeps talking about upskilling people in the college level or high school, after high school. But I think upskilling is something people have to do at every single level, every single point in life. I have to do it now, even though I have all this experience. I have to upskill myself today. Because if after pre-COVID, I honestly have not done any webinars except a few in WebEx. Right? Post-COVID, March 22nd lockdown, I have gotten go-to meetings. I got Zoom, Microsoft Teams, go-to webinar, Google Hangout. All these things I didn't even know that existed. And each and every one of them, I had to go in there and make sure that I'm okay. My modems never had a UPS. And the need of the hour was to plug every modem with a UPS so that, when power goes down, I'm still here, right? So it is kind of a world that has changed around us, and we all adapt to that world. Right. And I think that adaptation will have to happen in the reskilling area, in people's education. We thought at one time, if you became an engineer, you're fine for the rest of your life and your career. But that's where the beginning of the rest of your life happens, right? I think after the engineering is where I have learned a lot more than whatever I learned in the 4 years.
Of course.
Right? So I think employment will always be there because there will be always a need, but the need is going to be very different. And people who are able to adapt and change to that need and reskill themselves will constantly see growth, and they'll keep moving forward. People who say that I have arrived, I think they're going to be surprised.
That's a very, very nice, interesting way of looking at it. So now let's come to the hype words which we generally hear about conference and industry points. Come to drones. We see a lot of movement in the drone space, and even in India, there are pretty good companies which are coming up on the hardware space, in the manufacturing of drones, on the data side of drones. So where do you see, what kind of adoption do you see in India, and where do you see it going forward, considering the current geopolitical scenarios that we are having right now?
I think it's got plenty of opportunities, and I know you love that space. I know that I know that you guys are very much into that space, and you would want to hear that that space is going to keep on growing. And I think your mapping and etc. is just a fantastic idea, right? And I would say that every realm of our lives is going to need that kind of mapping, that kind of feedback from an aerial point of view, whether it be zoning in terms of land, whether it be in terms of identifying, traffic spots, right? So drones will be there, and I think drones can come delivering packages. You hear about all these things on a daily basis.
Right.
I mean, and in terms of defense, I think drones are seen better because you don't sacrifice a human life. But at the end of the day, there'll only be so much of expansion you can do, right? You'll keep expanding, and I think if I see the next 20, 25 years, drones are going to be great business.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
But they are only going to be great business to the extent that every single thing that a drone does has some outcome.
Value add. Yeah.
That impacts the humanity.
Right.
See, a drone that just flies and delivers packages, okay, that's like a mule, okay, fine. It's a mule in the air, right?
Right.
But then if people don't see the value between that and a rider in a motorcycle, then why would you take the rider out and put a drone? Yes, the company saves money, but then you have reduced the number of income of people to purchase those products. And if those products are not being sold, then the drones will become inefficient.
Right.
So at the end of the day, the question again is going to be the applications. And I think drones have their applications. And we have to always think from India point of view with 1.3 billion people, with about 600, 700 million people who definitely need, daily wages and daily sort of work environment. And those people, if you take them out by putting drones, they have to be reskilled again. We go back to the previous point. They need to have 5 jobs which are very different. Maybe the jobs are because the drones are delivering, delivery is taken out, but then the logistics centers improve because you're delivering more and more goods. So, and the delivery is much faster. You know, so you have to analyze the entire ecosystem. And analyzing it from a point of saying that, look, the drone helps you deliver it faster and cheaper is a very short game, because eventually we might run out of products and services to deliver. Right. And I think, you know, when you take a drone in terms of defense, right? I mean, we take it in defense terms. Do we need a drone that's going to take some ammunition to America? We'll never probably go to war with the United States or Russia or any other place, right? But our immediate needs are just over the Himalayas or just on this side, you know, over the deserts or whatever it is. It's very smaller, you know, smaller distance drones that we need, and high altitude drones we need for defense purposes. So those will fill the gaps, right? But at the end of the day, I think drones are here to stay. I think drones will take more and more relevance because road traffic, etc., is going to be only more and more challenged. And we don't have enough space in big cities, etc., for people to have 10,000 riders riding all over the place. So I think there will be a place for all these things. It's all happening. It will come, right? But again, it's going to be a slower journey because you're going to displace something else in order to take over it. It is not filling a gap where there is a need. It is filling a gap where there's more productivity. So that journey is a lot harder than there is a need, right? So I think that is the way I look at drones in the civilian side and drones in the defense side.
Thank you. Thank you.
But you guys are doing great work. I'm a big fan of what you guys do, because I think that is absolutely essential for the country.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. Okay. So as we come towards the end of the session, let's say, like, if you had to give a closing remark to what students should do today to be to make the best out of this Industry 4.0 drive that is happening right now in India and globally, and make the best out of the Make in India and Atmanirbhar programs, what should students focus on? What should they look towards, and what should be their priorities?
They should only look towards change, and they should look at change happening at very rapid pace. So what they should learn is, you know, when you're in university, you gain knowledge, you understand basics, you gain knowledge. But when you come out into the industry, it is about dissemination of that knowledge. So the ability to go and say, this is what it is, but then you're able to go and grab where you need to go grab it and solve some challenge that's in front of you for that particular day. That is what is going to keep people getting better and better. So I would say that the world is evolving at a very fast pace. Technology is evolving at a very fast pace. What you have learned in these 4 years is a great beginning, but it's not the end. And I think I would say that be ready for change at pace, get ready for India also definitely growing. And there are plenty of opportunities out there if you know how to deliver value. Right? You will see all the startups, and you are an example by yourself. I think all the startups that are successful are going to have delivered value. Me Too is not going to work too much. Good ideas and startups are great, but taking that good idea and converting it or monetizing it into a commercial product is a different matter. And making sure the sustainability of the commercial product exists is going to be another different matter. But it applies not just to an entrepreneur. It applies to an employee. It applies to me in my job. Right? Every single morning I wake up, I ask myself the question, what value will I deliver to the company today?
Right.
And I think people should start asking that question a lot sooner and a lot harder.
That's great. That's great. So let's everyone start their day with saying, what value will I add to my organization, to my life every day?
To my ecosystem, to my stakeholders, to my parents, my brother, my sister, you know, to my friends, to my, you know, general public. You need to think about it, because we become better human beings.
Right.
You know, at the end of the day, when we get into the rat race, it's easy to forget that we are at the end of the day human beings.
Yeah.
And I think people really, really have to start thinking about things as human beings and start thinking that, yes, there is a work, but there is a little bit of the human side to work as well. That's going to become more and more important.
Great. So starting from Industry 4.0, we have the session with a philosophical thought. So Anirudh, over to you. Like, is there a Q&A around here, or you want to do a vote of thanks over here? Anirudh?
Yeah, I'm taking up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just a couple of questions. So you said that we are not having a lot of defense-based startups in India, but at the same time, there are startups which are trying to provide hardware-based solutions to a lot of problems which could be incorporated into defense. So what's it that we need to bridge this gap, that products which can be used in defense come into defense and people can use them?
Well, I'll just clarify one thing. I just said I don't know of many defense startups. So, I mean, it's not like there's not many defense startups. There could be plenty of them. And I am not so cognizant with it. But that said, I think, look, defense is just another sector name. At the end of the day, the need of manufacturing is going to be the same, right? But the environment that you're going to do it in, so if you're doing it with the defense-related government organizations or defense-related public sector units, is the same as working with the oil and gas public sector unit or working with the industrial public sector unit or with the private sector at large. So I don't think there's any big difference, but defense is for the country and it is a very closely held thing by the government, right? Because it is very important for the security and safety of people. So I think there has been a lot of, what should I say? There's been a lot of not so easy interactions with the general populace because they have to do that for their reasons, right?
Yeah.
So, but now there is more and more of opening up because they are involving defense production into more and more, private companies. They are involving defense production with products and services trying to be built here in India. So there's an opportunity. There's a great opportunity. And like I said, I know a couple of friends of mine who are suppliers who started off doing nothing back 10 years back. Today, they are very, very large suppliers to the Ministry of Defense. And I know that they are making all the way up to missile components, right? So it is definitely there, but these are not startups anymore. They are large companies.
Yeah.
And they were startups 10 years back. So, so the thing is that I think it is just the evolution of the industry that probably has not taken as much rapid pace as in other areas. But I think it is going to be defense's need of the hour, every day. And so I think it will definitely be there. And I think there's a great opportunity for everyone.
So also, do you think that this new industry 4.0 revolution, how can people in the academic sector who are not quite into an industrial background could be benefited from it or would be affected from it in some sense?
Look, again, it is very important to understand that people who are in the education space in the universities, they have to be learning, keeping in mind what is going to happen when they graduate, right? So when they graduate, they're going to be coming out into an industry 4.0 environment. But what does it really mean? It means cognizance of the digital techniques and tools. It means understanding data analytics work, understanding automated processes, understanding manufacturing processes, improvement techniques. It is going to be about understanding at a holistic level than just the theory of fluid mechanics or thermodynamics or any details, which is absolutely essential knowledge that is gained in the university. But beyond that, that's the foundation. On the foundation, the pillars that are going to be built are the tools and the techniques and the every day-to-day what is happening around them. They should start getting more and more engaging themselves into that space. So today's world is all about data analytics. So the students should be working on data analytics models, whether it's algorithm development or whatever, but they have to be cognizant of computers. Without knowing computers and saying, I don't know this programming or that programming is not an option anymore.
Yeah.
Right? I think at the age that you guys are, I can say I don't know Python programming and maybe get away with it for some time. But I think the new generation has to think about, should I know Python programming? Do I know this programming? Do I need to know this tool? I had to learn a lot of tools in Six Sigma. My math lab was there. That was new at the time. Swanson Systems, ANSYS. Everything is new at that point in time for every individual.
Yes.
But knowing that, without understanding these tools and techniques, when I go into the industry, I'm going to be shortchanged because the expectation is a little different than my fundamental knowledge. So the fundamental knowledge has to be wrapped around application knowledge. And the application knowledge is primarily the tools and the techniques around it. So fundamental combined with tools and techniques to get the application knowledge is what the industry wants.
Yes. So I guess more than should I be doing this, it's about when should I start doing this.
Well put. Well put. And the better answer to that is now.
Absolutely. I guess everyone takes a note of this, that we all have to start upskilling ourselves.
Well, no day stops without that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you were mentioning data analytics. So what do you think is the reason that if academic people are not knowing about the importance of data analytics, or they're not able to understand what should they be doing about data analytics? So what could be the first sort of a rule of thumb resource to check out, or maybe understand that what should be the next tool or the next sort of resource they should be looking for?
In your introduction, you talked about networking, right? And I've always asked the question, what is the use of networking? People confuse networking to say that it will help me get my job, right? That's a big, big mistake,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yes.
So I think networking is there to gain knowledge that you will not gain by being within the four walls of the university,
Absolutely.
right? And that is where you go and find out what is happening around you.
Okay.
And that is where you say, now this is what is happening around me. Am I equipped to fit myself into that environment?
Yes.
Right? That is what I think is the key.
So, could you just tell more about this networking skill? Like, how could students take about it?
So look, I think in some areas, depending on which field you're in, right? If you're in computer science, okay, there's a different group of people that you will interact with. If you are in mechanical engineering, it'll be a different group of people. If you're in pharma, it'll be a different group of people. So there are different groups of people. Now, in all these different groups of people, the beauty of COVID is that everything is available in digital. So if there are many, many sessions hosted by government bodies, or they're not actually government, but okay, semi-government bodies like CII, FICI, ASSOCHAM, ASSOCHAM, NASCOM. So there are many, many, many places where topics are being discussed. You don't have to sit through every single topic with every single, industry body. But I think it is very important to probably go and attend a few of these.
Yes.
Understand what's going on out there, right? And companies don't have the time. They got to look at their bottom line. They got to look at their top lines. There's a lot of things goes on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely.
But the companies are participating in this forum so that they understand what the peer group is also doing.
Yes.
Right? And so those are great places to say that, okay, what are the topics? At least look at the headlines and say, what are the topics? Are they talking Industry 4.0 today? So what are they talking about Industry 4.0? Are they talking about artificial intelligence? Is it machine learning? Is it deep learning? Deep thinking? What does it mean by all these things? What does it really mean to me? Internalize that and say, if this is my interest, this is what I'm going to do. How do I take this thing again and again? I go back to saying, figure out how you're going to create that differentiation for yourself from being the foundation build level of knowledge to the industry requirement level of knowledge. Yes. Right? And it's not going to happen by, internships are a great opportunity. That's what they're there for. Yes. Right? People are doing internships. It's a great opportunity. If they don't do internships, then they have to figure out alternate means of finding that information.
Yes.
It is networking to me is about gaining knowledge, is about information sharing, and it is about making sure that people understand who you are and you understand who they are. Okay. It is not about a job hunt. And everybody says it's a job hunt. Look, you can use it for a job hunt, but I think that's not how jobs actually happen. Some of them happen, but the percentage is very low, I think.
And it would be a gross underuse of networking to just have it for a job hunt, I guess.
I think so. I could be wrong. Don't blame me for it, but I think so.
Yeah, I guess where we can collect information and have our own job, why go for directly asking a job?
There you go. There you go.
So you said that we are talking about from a foundation level knowledge to an industry standard knowledge. So if say I start preparing today, or if someone starts preparing today, when do they actually reach such a certain level, and how do they understand that? Sir?
Well,
is there a problem, sir?
I think he has some connectivity issues. So
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just wait for 2 minutes, and he's unable to join, then we'll conclude the
Sure.
session.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
No problem, sir. You can continue.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Sorry,
Yeah, we can.
I'm back. Sorry about it.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why, what happened. It's just the power fluctuates and the UPS also can't catch in fast enough. So it's just a delay of about 30 seconds that happens. So I'm back. So
So you were telling something and then you got cut off.
where did I leave it? Sorry.
Yeah, so
We're talking about networking.
No, sir, I came after that. I was just asking that you told that there's a difference between foundation level knowledge and an industry standard knowledge.
Yeah.
So that how would one know that such a certain level has been reached or
Yeah. So we talked about that. We talked about the networking as a tool
yes, sir.
to leverage that, right? Yes.
But is networking a very efficient tool to know this? Because people might have different opinions and it could confuse.
Of course. It is one of the mechanisms. It's one of the mechanisms, right? So networking is one, but information you find online, right? So many pieces of information that keeps floating around. Newspapers,
yes,
right? Technology articles.
Mm-hmm.
There are many different ways, right? And in your environment, I think finding information is the least of your concerns. Okay. What you do with that information is a bigger concern for you.
It's a real concern, absolutely. Agree.
You know, and I think that is where all the universities have all the information. And even from my own days, I remember everybody knew about everything about how to go to the US to study, do a master's. What happens is the process. Similarly, here, everybody knows it. Just go in there, look for it. The message here is look for it, you will find it.
And from there, it's just the main challenge of processing that information and making something useful out of it.
Hey, the value, the differentiator is the must, right?
So, sir, we are talking about how industries are changing the viewpoint for students, right? Because students have to now upskill themselves, they have to learn new skills. So, do you think there's any reason why the curriculum is not getting integrated with what needs to be an industry standard, and students have to separately go and search out for skills?
Well, look at it this way. The curriculum can only do so much. They provide the foundations. They provide the basics. The curriculum cannot be like, you cannot have thermodynamics and you cannot have fluid mechanics and then you say, I got business analytics. So today they might put business analytics, tomorrow they might have to talk about cloud storage. And tomorrow they got to talk about supply chain. They got to talk about logistics. They got to talk about, so, yes, the universities are all trying to do their best, right? I mean, everybody, it's the pace of change is just rapid. With such a rapid change of pace, they cannot keep changing curriculums. The curriculum gives you the base, right? It can only be that way. And I think it's only going to change faster and faster and faster.
Okay. Yes.
Right? If you're in the telecommunication space, you're going to be basically you looked at 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, right? I mean, okay, so the tools around how 5G, what 5G does is easy for me to understand, right?
Yeah.
But how 5G works is very different. And it's not like the fundamentals of how this telecommunication systems work has not changed. But how the fundamentals are leveraged to increase the efficiency and the productivities has changed. And so knowing that this kind of things are coming in, how do you do that step is going to be the key, right? When I graduated in my engineering college, I had no access to any computer.
It's a long way back.
35 years back, right? But today, it is just, I cannot do anything without a computer.
Absolutely.
And it's not like I just said, I don't have to even go and look. I can see this happening. I can see this coming to me, and I have to get myself better with it. Right? That's the same way you guys are in. You guys are in a world where you say analytics is coming at you. Whether you like it or not, whichever field you're in, analytics is there to stay. There are tools that come with it. So how you use that with your fundamental knowledge and allow yourself to be that much more valuable to the industry is going to determine who you are.
Absolutely.
Right. Right.
So there's a question on a slightly different tangent. It's about, is Rolls-Royce considering to build electric vehicles anytime soon?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And we are looking at hybrid solutions, and then we are looking at all electric solutions. And yes, it is something definitely we would like to be a part of. We believe that with our sustainability initiatives, it is extremely important that we look at lower and lower carbon emissions. And so when we look at lower and lower carbon emissions, I think we have to look at products that are going to move away from fossil fuel into more and more of electric.
Yes, sir. So since we know that Rolls-Royce does partnership with companies when it comes to such areas, are you thinking of partnering with some particular company in this?
We are always looking at it. There's nothing specific in mind, but at the right time, for the right reasons, we will definitely partner.
Okay.
Yes.
So I believe that's almost the end of all questions that we have.
Excellent.
It was really nice to have you, sir. So,
Pleasure was all mine. It was a great pleasure to be here with you all.
great privilege for us to be with you.
Yes.
Pleasure to be
Thank
talking
you.
to you, sir. Yeah.
Thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you so
I'll
much.
be
Thanks for
watching
your
your company very closely.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Thanks, Piyush. Thanks, Anirudh. See you then.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Okay, so we are done with our first speaker, and I guess we will move on further. So next we have amongst our speakers today, we have Mrs. Neerja Birla. She's the founder and chairperson of the Aditya Birla Education Trust and also Empower, which, you guessed it right, focuses to bring a positive change in people's attitude towards mental health. Now, through Empower, she hopes to spread awareness about mental health, alleviate the stigma, and provide quality care to individuals from all walks of life. She is the chairperson of the Aditya Birla Integrated School, developed for children who are differently abled in an intellectual perspective. I believe I didn't tell more about the far stretch of her empathy, compassion, and philanthropy. She has been working with her empowering projects since the completion of her education. She has received a large number of awards and accolades for her work and now plans to build mental health initiatives spanning across several disciplines of life. I'm sure now we are all pretty excited to hear from her about her work and her ideas on social entrepreneurship. And she has been generous enough to lend us some time and her content. So without any further ado, we will tune into Nija ma'am's content.
Good evening, IIT Mumbai. First of all, a very big thank you to the Entrepreneurship Cell for inviting me to this webinar. IIT is a great place for all of you budding entrepreneurs to start your professional journeys. This is where you can give shape to your dreams, hone your talents, and accumulate the requisite know-how in order to eventually venture out into uncharted territories with your innovations and ideas. This evening's topic, social entrepreneurship, launch and scaling up of a pioneer mental health initiative, is a very personal one for me. It brings back all the memories of my journey over the years, and I'm happy to share snippets of that journey with you. The Japanese have an interesting concept called ikigai. It means your reason for living. To feel motivated at all times and feel fulfilled and have a sense of happiness, you need 4 things in place. Passion, something that you love to do. A mission, something that the world needs. A vocation, something you're good at. And a profession, something that you get paid for. Over the years, I have found my ikigai in doing things that help people and touch their lives in a positive manner. I was lucky I got that opportunity in the fields of education and mental health. The desire to do something in the mental health arena had been bouncing around in my mind for some years, but it was my daughter Ananya who acted as a catalyst, making it a reality in 2016. Mental health care, as you all know, is not easily available in India. There are 130 million people with health issues, and sadly we do not have enough trained personnel and mental health care facilities to cater to all of them. The treatment gap is truly enormous. Even today, India has only 1 psychiatrist for every 3 lakh people, 1 psychologist for every 15,000 people, and only 26,000 hospital beds. This made us realize the need for a comprehensive mental health care organization, and we realized it was a pressing need. Empower's mission is to empower individuals with mental health issues and their families by creating awareness, alleviating stigma, advocating prevention, and providing world-class holistic services so that they may lead meaningful and productive lives with respect and dignity. Although we ventured out quite ambitiously with Empower, the fact was that I had no formal training in mental health care, nor in entrepreneurship, nor in business. But what I did have was a deep-rooted passion and conviction for it. By no means was it easy to get Empower going. Putting together the right team was critical. In fact, it was quite a process in itself. I was very fortunate, however, that we were able to get on board like-minded, sharp people, passionate and hard-working individuals who shared a common vision to bring fruition to a long-cherished dream. It was quite a process in itself. I was very fortunate, however, we were able to get on board like-minded, sharp minds, passionate and hard-working individuals who shared a common vision to bring it to fruition. One of the main needs and objectives of Empower was to start breaking the mental health barriers and deep ingrained stigmas. Even though we knew this would be a biggest hurdle, I was still overwhelmed by the enormity of it. The social stigma, the fear of being ostracized, willingness to suffer in silence, which could even end in losing someone to suicide. For example, we had believed that corporates would welcome our mental health programs and workshops, but that did not happen. No one said it out loud, but the truth was that no company wanted to break open the Pandora's box of their workforce's mental health issues, so people didn't want to take the workshops. Similarly, within the first year or so itself, we got in touch with over 80 schools, including some of the most coveted ones in Mumbai. We offered free mental health workshops and awareness programs. Only 10 schools responded. Schools in India were still afraid and are still afraid of letting external agencies assess the mental health of their students. As a result of initial experiences, we realized that we needed to change our products, our services, and even our approach in more ways than one. It taught us the value of adaptability. Frustration is also a part and parcel of launching a social enterprise and making it a success. Things may not always go right. Things may not move as fast as you would like them to. The team may not be the right fit. There may be concerns and even anxiety about sustaining the venture, and there'll be challenges galore at every step of the way. We've experienced the entire spectrum at different points in time. At times, I even felt like it was completely thankless. In fact, it felt that things were just not working out. I asked myself several times during this journey, is it worth it? Are we really making a difference? Why am I putting myself through all of this? But then all it took was that one positive reaction from someone about the work we were doing. And whenever we realized that we made even a small difference to someone's life, it made a huge world of a difference to us. Each positive reaction made us realize the impact of our work and its untapped potential. And all the troubles suddenly seemed worth it. With social enterprises, the most important thing to remember is that the measure of your achievements has to be qualitative and not quantitative. Its success cannot be measured in terms of profits. But what really matters more than anything else is how many people's lives are affected positively by the work you do, and make a difference to the lives of how many ever few people that you could. As we grew, we had several key decisions to make. One question that constantly arises is, do we scale up our operations and then expand the team, or do we expand the team first and in preparation for the scaling up? It turns out to be a bit of both, actually, to tell you the truth, just to find balance, which you don't always get right, but I think eventually things just work out. I think in many ways we were and still are experimental innovators. When we started off, we didn't know where we wanted to go. The path wasn't clear. It was only after enormous trials and errors and endless iteration to our products, we realized and we were able to figure out a system and a roadmap that seems to be working for us. But even as I speak, the road is always under construction. So now we have 5 verticals that we're extremely proud of. The awareness initiatives, which involve the community at large to get people pledge their time and effort for a cause that they collectively relate with. And this goes a long way to create ripple effects, something like the RTM. 2, the psychiatric and psychological services through the various multiple Empower clinics, with some of them offering services almost free of cost to people from economically challenged backgrounds, because I do believe that everyone is entitled to a productive life, and we would want to be able to be catalysts in ensuring to as many people as possible. Our third is the outreach team, which reaches out to people, to various communities like schools, colleges, corporates, and NGOs, with an aim to increase the mental health literacy and awareness. We've delivered about 1,200 workshops so far. The fourth is the Empower Academia, a vertical that seeks to deliver academic program to mental health professionals in order to upgrade the treatment given. Our fifth and newest vertical is the BMC Empower one-on-one 24/7 helpline in collaboration with the state government. It was launched primarily to help people during the pandemic and the lockdown. Since the inception of Empower in May 2016, we've completed over 36,000 clinical sessions and touched over 3,000 lives from various backgrounds and different socioeconomic strata. Since its launch, the helpline has provided mental health assistance to an overwhelming 50,000 plus people from all across the country. The workshops and webinars have impacted over 50,000 people. Our social media campaigns and events like Stamp Out Stigma and Be the Change and many others have reached out to over 14.3 million people. Every story, every experience teaches us life lessons. Let me share with you a few that we at Empower learned and continue to. 1, passion. It's the fuel to use to keep yourself going, but there are no shortcuts to success. Hard work and perseverance are key components. And as you will need these to also sustain and maintain that success. There is a word in Hindi called jigar, which means to have courage, and that's the second learning. Dreams don't just come true because you dream them. You may have to step out, and you have to step out of your comfort zone and have the courage to take calculated risks to fulfill your ambitions and emerge victorious. Number 3, as we learned very early on, you have to be open to change and constantly adapt to evolving situations. Keep trying new things and keep thinking out of the box as you seek solutions to the problems and hurdles that you encounter. 4th, never lose focus of your core mission. It is easy to digress and move away from your main goal or product due to the unpredictable nature of things and pressures that you may face. But that's where the focus comes in. As you learn to perfect that balancing act of practicality to run your enterprise, do not forget what you really set out to do. In fact, keep going back to that time and again. And the 5th, most important, is getting the right people for the right job, especially as your own team increase and you expand. Startups offer a real thrill. Seeing an idea take shape is an adrenaline high, and then to seeing it do well is a very fulfilling and satisfying feeling. However, it is very important to know that they do come with their own set of challenges and ups and downs. There is always a financial risk to every startup, even though it's a calculated one. So many entrepreneurs are high achievers with huge expectations out of themselves. They tend to harbor this strong desire to be self-made, where failure is just not an option. Their self-expectations and their drive make them even more vulnerable to mental health concerns. So be realistic of your own competencies. It's very important to set goals that are out of the comfort zone, but however still realistically achievable. Life is not a linear journey. Things will never fall into place the way you want them to be, the way you envisage them. Choose a path that allows you to focus on your passion without missing out on the other important aspects of life: family, relationships, and health, to name a few. Follow your path diligently and with consistent effort, and your time will come. I would like to leave you with some of my compass points, a few learnings I've picked up along the way. Each of you will have your own journeys to traverse and develop your own compass points, but sometimes some things get stacked away on the bottommost shelves of your minds, and suddenly they surface when you need them the most. So here goes. Have a sense of purpose, some sort of direction in life. Of course, you are all very young and will amble along the way, but as long as you overall know where you are headed, it's fine. Second, carpe diem. Seize the day. Make the most of every experience in life. Nothing is good or bad, it just is. And everything happens for a reason, for you to learn and become the person you are becoming. Indulge in your hobbies. Practice self-care, things that make you happy. Obviously not at the risk of somebody else, but remember to smell the roses along the way. Make having fun part of your everyday life. Take time to create lasting memories. We get so busy in making a living that we really forget to make a life. Learn to treat people with respect. Managing people is an art, and one that you should cultivate right from the beginning. Relationships are very important, therefore spending time on the ones that really matter is really well worth it. Be authentic to yourself and stand up for what you think is right. Even though this is one of the toughest things to do, and I'm sure a lot of girls over here will relate to that, but one must choose your battles wisely and stand up for what you truly think is important to you. Here's wishing all you budding entrepreneurs and super professionals of the future the very best in life. Yours is a generation that is going to impact the world with your innovations and brilliance. Yours is a generation that are the real change makers. Thank you and have a wonderful rest of the day.
So I believe that was a really great talk and all of you enjoyed it. We did have some technical issues though, and it was that she was not able to join us today due to some internet issues, and she was kind enough to record it for us, and we must actually thank her for this. So I hope you all gain some message. Mental health is a very important aspect of an individual's life, and whilst we all are struggling to build up our careers, build up our future, it's equally necessary to understand that we need to have an important place for mental health in our life. And I hope that after today's session, each one of us tries to focus on our mental health more, try to not focus on the less important things and ignore mental health. With that said, I guess we can introduce our next speaker. So, yeah. So our next speaker is Mr. Deepak Maheshwari. Mr. Deepak Maheshwari is the founder of a boutique business consultancy and investment banking firm called Zindagi Live Consulting, based out of Gurgaon. He has over 24 years of enriching experience as an entrepreneur, business head, and CFO of multiple business units with companies like GE Capital and IFCI. He has a demonstrable track of enhancing shareholder value and managing business throughout life cycles. He has managed early stage business startups, enabled rapid organic growth, created strategic turnarounds, forged joint ventures, and right-sized businesses. Deepak sir is a rank holder, qualified chartered accountant, chartered financial analyst, cost and management accountant, and a company secretary. He's also a certified insolvency resolution professional. He has helped build restructuring strategies for multiple NPA, that is, non-performing assets cases. Now, with that said, who better to talk to growth catalysts? Because as they say, big businesses start small. So without any further ado, let's give a warm welcome to Mr. Deepak Maheshwari. Okay, so I guess he got some last moment work and he'll be joining in a short while. By that time, I guess we can have a look on the questions that you have asked, if any. Okay, so some generic questions. What was ma'am's name? So ma'am's name is Nirja Birla. You can check her on the internet and you'll find pretty much a lot of information about her. Though some sites might have like a lot of fake information as well. I was going through it and I realized that. So kindly have a look out for the genuine sites that will have true information. So that's all questions. I guess Deepak sir is here with us now. Hello, sir.
Hi, Anirudh.
So we just now introduced you before you joined.
Okay.
Everyone knows about you and they would like to listen to you. They're very excited to know about you and your work.
Thanks a lot. So, shall I share my screen?
Sure, sir. Sure.
Thanks. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay. Shall we start?
Absolutely, sir, whenever you're comfortable.
Okay. So thanks a lot, Puneet and Anirudh, for having me over and being part of this interesting summit. My pleasure to be talking to everyone over here.
It's an honor for us to have you, sir.
And a very interesting topic. And I have chosen to be a little offbeat, even in trying to probably cover some of the ground that I intended to cover. So interestingly, the topic that we are covering over here is really big businesses starting small. And I added a couple of sentences there. And I think very important that the value creation part of it really comes out nicely. And all of us need to understand that valuations will follow as a derivative. Valuations need not be the driver. So that's the conversation that I wanted to talk about. Quickly, you guys have spoken about my background, but I just wanted to use a page to tell you that overall, with that 24-25 years of experience that I have had in the industry, in operating roles, doing P&L roles, and then now moving on to the advisory front. I had a chance to obviously look at multiple giant businesses. I used to be part of GE Capital. So that was a Fortune 1 ranked company. I spent a long tenure there. And enough work with the established companies, stressed companies, startups, and with multitude of investors, both in the VC community as well as on the private equity side. So overall, what I've tried and done is, in the next 15-20 minutes, I will try and basically focus and try and get you some snippets of what I think, what works and what doesn't work. And as youngsters who are thinking of getting into business tomorrow, and maybe some of you are already up there, getting your apps ready, there are things that are already working for you, how you should be really thinking about creating a sustainable business is something that I wanted to use this opportunity to share my thoughts based on my experience. Interestingly, and while obviously all know that obviously we are talking to a very select set of group of people over here, and you've got all, you've come through filtered architectures, you've been one of the best groups in terms of your curriculum, people with brains, people with IQ, people aspire to be here, and you guys have reached and crossed that bar, right? So, so when we look at why somebody would really look at entrepreneurs getting created from an institution like yours, obviously you are a filtered lot, so you come with that one gate that has obviously opened for you, and really opens up a journey. Now, what you do with this first step that you have been able to achieve, and the experience that you take over these next 3-4 years that you're part of the entire journey over here, that will really set you apart in terms of saying what do you do next, and how far do you go. There are some key characteristics that I thought are, and when we look at entrepreneurship specifically, some traits that are very, very important, and you guys have those. And I thought there are 3 or 4 things that I should surely mention, which is obviously you guys are a lot of technology, innovative, bent of mind, good with numbers, and you getting that right environment and curriculum. And things have only changed over the last 10-15 years. On a every year is a new year with a new set of circumstances. Earlier things used to change in a 5-year, 10-year time frame. Generations would change. Today, while your first year batch comes in and the 4th year is going out, probably a significant generation changes. That would be an understatement, given the level of changes that we experience in the economy, what's happening outside, what's happening on the innovation front, how technology is rapidly expanding. So I think we all have to be up to speed in terms of how changes are happening and how things are shaping up. Again, would surely want to reiterate, you've crossed a big hurdle by being part of the journey over here. But what you make out of it, how you spend your years here, leveraging the skills that you can absolutely put more skills on top of the skills that you already have, that will be very, very interesting. Coming down to, I wanted to spend some time talking about definition of a successful startup, right? And when you talk of a successful startup today, and a lot of times we are, there are certain things that come to our mind when we are talking about it. So whether you talk of a creation of a unique product, amazing technology, so these are things that would very naturally go to people like you, who are, a lot of you are learning engineering, you've got science backgrounds, great at maths. So some of these are very natural to you, right? And great businesses that have got built in and around you. There are role models from your institutions who have done well. But I also want to lay out a few things because a lot of times what has started to happen, the way the media projects a few things, when you talk of high valuations, multi-million-dollar funding, people appearing on newspapers, appearing on TV shows, makes lot of them look far more successful than what they are, right? Now, a successful startup does not necessarily mean any one of these, right? It is a combination of multiple things in terms of how that business really gets laid out. Business delivers value. So it's never get overawed by a fact that you've got 3 role models from your alumni, taking a few awards, some great funding that has happened there in terms of their path to success, right? But we have to always remember, money is only one of the variables that makes it successful. Raising money, and with higher valuations is absolutely great, but it is not the end all be all. So that's a very, very important point that I thought we should talk about. How do you really define success? And what I intended to do, and that's why I left a couple of questions and that you can see on the screen. When you really say successful startup, really, what are the measures? And some of the stuff that we will talk while we are building a great business, and how you should define success in your entrepreneurial journeys is going to be very important. And I wanted to surely make that point over here. And to my mind, there are 2 important things that you should surely think about, which is how are you really creating value for the entire ecosystem? It's not about I have raised $20 million, I have raised $30 million, there is a potential exit that happens at say 300 million. But as part of that process, have I created enough value? Making money will always come in as a derivative of the process if you are absolutely creating value for the ecosystem, and not only for yourself, your team members, but for the entire ecosystem. So I think a foremost important thing for you to really define is what is my entrepreneurial journey going to be? How am I designing this startup so that this startup, what are the success metrics that I'm going to be measuring it on, and which is what will really drive you tomorrow and day after tomorrow and for many, many years to come as you build those businesses, right? It is not, and as most of you would try and understand, it's not about a 3-year, 5-year journey. It's a long haul, which you have to take baby steps and then build towards scale. So some of these points are something that I wanted to talk about, and when we do some of the Q&As, we'll be happy to take some questions from you guys as well. In terms of really, this is the first step in terms of really defining success, and this should be to each his own, but we have to really look at a lot of variables before we can say I'm creating a successful one. This is a very important slide that I wanted to talk about in brief. We are a $2.5 trillion economy. Obviously, given the COVID environment, we're taking a little slip. We had started to talk about the 5 trillion economy over the next 4 to 5 years. There is a lot of work that has happened. But if you look at the entire decade, we will lose some 12 months, 18 months here or there. But I think the important thing for you to note is the journey that's right in front of you. I personally feel you guys are at the right cusp. Given that over the next decade, this from a pure Indian economy standpoint, we are going to be headed towards the $10 trillion mark. I think that's, and the foundations for that in terms of enabling that environment are getting laid. The entire ecosystem, whether you look at how investors pool from a capital is getting made available in the country. We've had our brush with China, and I'm sure over time things will subside, and then there are alternate funds that are obviously coming in. There is enough that is happening in the country even in that direction. If you look at both the urban rural part of India, both are now getting equal attention. In the startup circles, we have kept talking about India and Bharat, but I think that line is getting blurred. It will all converge because there is, everybody wants a sustainable living, and there is enough work that can be done under that umbrella that will make all of us proud. The kind of startups that you will bring, kind of innovation that you will be able to bring, kind of changes that you can impact at a larger level will be significant. So look at it from a next decade standpoint rather than looking at it from a 1 or 2 year standpoint, and your journey as part of this entire $2.5 trillion to a $10 trillion economy. So the opportunities are going to be huge, humongous, depending on your areas of interest. And I think the enabling environment is absolutely getting laid out. So that's, so you are at the right cusp and best position is how I would look at from driving innovation over the next decade, which makes lives a lot more simpler for the Indian community for sure, and obviously take those architectures abroad. My mantra has been a couple of things in terms of how do you really look at what kind of products and services. Now, you guys, given your bent of mind, obviously great technology, great innovation, deep tech, talk about AI, some of those nuances absolutely come to your mind because those are closer to your heart and you're great at it. But absolutely, the one thing that you should all remember is it is never about, when you talk of successful entrepreneurship, it is not only about just the product creation, great technology that I have created. I've taken 20 patents, filed in the US, and I feel proud about it. That is absolutely a plus. But when you talk of entrepreneurship and creating a business around it, ultimately you have to be solving for customers' problems and creating value for the customer, and for which a customer will pay you. Ultimately, if great technology, but the customer is not ready to pay for that, is great, but you'll get value for it, but it's not going to turn around into a successful business. for a successful business, it's going to be very, very important that the disruptive products and services that you really think of ultimately have to marry into paying customers. And obviously you have to look at from an India standpoint, global standpoint, looking at the entire market from a customer set standpoint, where people will be ready to pay you for the product that they use. 3 or 4 things that I also wanted to add there as part of that conversation was, how do you look at some of the stuff in terms of looking at value creation as well as cost reduction, because that's how you will create value. So one is additional features that you can provide, which makes life easier, or getting things available at lower cost structures by removing features from an architecture standpoint, which just don't make sense. A lot of times you will find that we are doing things, or companies are doing things because they've done it for 10 years or 20 years. That's the way things have been done. But the questioning mind is really about really where am I creating market? Where is the value that I'm giving with that feature, whether it is new or by removing some from the customer's life. And then there is a value that I ascribe to that feature that I provide. And then there is price to be paid by the customer ultimately. So interestingly, you have to look at the kind of business that you want to be in, kind of product that you want to get into with some of these lenses. So this is what I wanted to lay out as a starting filter in terms of really looking at how do you look at products and services, what kind of products and services to look, but with what kind of lens. Moving on to the next page, I wanted to really talk about 3 architectures over here when I talk of building blocks of a successful business, right? The first and foremost, when you look at number 1 and number 2, which is customers' perspectives and customer journey, I personally believed, and as I have looked at multiple companies in various forms and avatar, and God has been kind, I've been able to look at multinationals, I've been able to look at large Indian Lala companies, so to say, smart tech companies which have done well, and upcoming startups in the current space. And every interaction with the promoter, every interaction with the team gives you something to learn. Personally, I have always believed in terms of how we've looked at a few things where things start to really make sense from what you're driving as a business. As long as you're looking at the customer's perspectives and everything that you do, keeping the customer in the front, right? And at the core and at the center of every decision that you take, you'll always be successful, because the next level of conversation that you will do is with always the customer in mind. So because ultimately, if the customer is going to be happy with what you're dishing out to him, he will pay for those services. He will be a sticky customer right through the service offering that you are able to offer for years on year. And most of you by now have started to understand stuff like unit economics and customer lifetime value. I think some of those things start to become very, very important if you have sticky customers. And when you talk of customer perspective, customer journey can never be far off from a discussion standpoint. So first you look at it from a customer's eyes, and then you look at the entire flow. So the standard terminology that most of us who understand a little bit of the, say on the app side, on the web architecture side, is you'll talk of UI, UX. And those UI, UX and the design become very, very important in that journey in terms of really removing friction from a customer standpoint. And that customer friction is not only about UI, UX and design at the front end, but also in terms of how you run the process. So if you look at somebody from an operations standpoint as part of the team, or also look at some of the last mile delivery guys, say in an e-commerce situation, you are still looking at it from that UI, UX and design standpoint, but in that context. So the front end web and app is an architecture that you look at from a front end standpoint when he's coming in to make a sale for you. But then operations also has to think with the same UI, UX design, because all the KRAs that you are laying out have to be thought through with that friction in mind, that there is no friction. Same thing applies till the time you really get the product, gives you feedback if there are issues. So everything has to be looked at from that perspective. I think 2 very important points from a customer standpoint. The second important architecture, even I would say, and when you look at great products and great execution, right? If you can be good at both, nothing like it. Though that will be awesome. But even if I have a little bad product, but I have great execution through a great team who's executing, I'll still be far better off. And that's something very important to remember. In terms of how you set your teams up, there are no one-man shows, and you'll always need great co-founders, great first set of team members who are part of the journey, and complementary skill sets, very, very important. You have to clearly lay out those roles which become very, very important, and the combination of 1 + 1 + 1 is going to be far, far significant than the 3 that comes as an answer. With the team, I wanted to talk about 2 important things that a lot of us look at. I look at them as more as hygiene factors, but a lot of times these hygiene factors need to be told, communicated, and made very, very important as part of your architectures. Because as you start small, there are a lot of things, and I'll take a very simple example which all of you will be able to relate, right? As we start a new application gets downloaded, there are enough people who can get you number of likes, they can get you number of downloads, they can get you X, they can get you Y, because there are certain people who will look at certain matrices. You can do all that jing bang, but those are short-term stuffs that we have to be completely out of if you're building a great business. That is why I mentioned that point, that right culture and strong governance will be key foundations that you should lay right up front. Very, very keep that as a strong foundation, and things can only grow. You will always see that there are differences. And if I take while I'm making that point, if you look at a public market view of companies today, right? You pick up any sector, whether you pick up in India or whether you pick up outside India. Very simply, if you will see in the same sector with same kind of balance sheet size, similar kind of revenue streams, multiple companies will get differently discounted in terms of how their P multiples will look like. You have a Kotak Bank, you have an HDFC Bank, and then there will be a Yes Bank, and then there will be a public sector bank, like IDBI, for an example. Now, if you look at the 4, there is a significant premium that's get paid to a Kotak Bank and an HDFC Bank because of the right culture and strong governance. That's absolutely there, and people will. It is not about shortcuts. You take away $3 here, $5 here, you make some shortcuts. It's not about that. What you need is you'll get far significant higher valuation if you keep these 2 things very, very strong as a foundation. The third quick thing I then wanted to point out was about today most of you understand the API logic. The collaborative approach, it is not about saying I will do everything, I will create all the technology that is required, but I can be 10 months late into the market. Today it is about really talking about your core and then doing collaborative approaches, which is like an API thinking that, okay, can I bring in 3 APIs from 3 different people and my go-to-market really goes faster. So ability to collaborate and create a win-win in the ecosystem is, I think, very, very important. And that helps you being nimble, spend less cost, get out to the market with your core, and then build value for yourself faster. I think some very, very important points that I wanted to talk about in those 3 sections as you build your own businesses. The next quick point, and you've all heard about unit economics and customer lifetime value. And you guys are obviously, as I was saying, great at data analytics, customer insights, artificial intelligence. You're leveraging a lot of that, understanding all of that, learning all of that. I think it's very important. In the last slide, we talked about from a customer's perspective, and we talked about the customer journey. And then really building a data analytics layer on customer insight as your big driver and leveraging. So this has to be a very, very core part of your team. And then you look at the 2 sides, which is reduced cost of acquisition, because automatically the customer insight will help you drive a few things where your unit economics, you'll be able to improve your unit economics, because ultimately COA has to be as close to 0 as you would ideally want, right? You would want people talking about your product organically and people coming to you at 0 cost. So I think very, very important to understand that part. And on the right hand side is really talking about how you really manage your customers, so that they keep coming in again and again, which is through a high net promoter score, which you value. which helps you bring in repeat customers, and then you can obviously keep cross-selling more and more and increase the wallet share in terms of what share of sales can you do with each wallet, and build customer loyalty. And then that engine really starts to feed in back to your customer acquisition engine. And we've always seen it is 7 times higher for acquiring a new customer in terms of what you spend on a cost versus retaining a customer. So if you retain 1 customer, it is like acquiring 7 customers. So you're better off doing this not only from a cost standpoint, but as you want to manage a business, really increasing the lifetime value so that the customer sticks on, talks good about you, and brings in new customers for you. So he should be your brand ambassador, right? If you have 1 lakh customers, that means 1 lakh more salesmen from your perspective. So that's something very, very important to decreasing unit economics. How do you look at it, and how do you really look at customer lifetime value is going to be very, very important. Now, if you look at the combination of all that I said, now these are some of the basic building blocks that you need. Do step by step, get some of these right before you start to say, okay, I'm present in 5 markets and tomorrow I'm going to be in 50 markets. Because once you've got some of these things clearly laid out, growth is automatically going to come, because nobody can prevent you if you've got most of these right. So that's a little bit on this part. Linking this to a lot of you obviously understand the valuation part of it, and we at times get reams of paper, reams of articles around valuation, and it has always been a journey from a multiple of eyeballs to multiples of profit. I've just kept it simple over here in terms of trying to make that point that there are times when there will be froth in each direction. You also know, I also know, all of us know that it's not going to last, but then sometimes party lasts till a particular point, till the next big guy comes in and there is last man standing. But ultimately you have to know that it will boil down to multiples of profit, and that is nirvana. So ultimately you have to graduate to that situation. So the faster you think about your profitable unit economics and profitable customers, and start thinking multiple of profits, you will be in the right space. And summarizing this, and I wanted to, you would have heard about this statement in many times, but I'm just trying to reiterate, because just getting revenue from customers is just not, you're not going to be anywhere after a point. Revenue is vanity, profit is some sanity, and cash flow is reality. Now, very simply put, only revenue is not going to work at any cost. Profits are going to be relevant, and then profits getting converted to cash. So profits also does not mean that you have sundry debtors and you can keep showing, because of accounting standards, you'll keep showing revenue. But then if the revenue is not getting collected from your customer and the cash is not coming back to the system, ultimately you're going to get shortchanged. So ultimately you have to keep your full eye on the cash flow. And simply put, ultimately, if you are increasing your customer lifetime value, valuations will only be one-way street. You will never look back. So remember this slide and remember some of the points that I mentioned earlier in terms of how do you want to look at your businesses as you really set out your new businesses. So start small, build your capabilities as we discussed, create customer value, because ultimately if you're creating customer value, you will be able to drive valuation for sure. Then you are ready for scale. Once you've started to create customer value, and once you are really ready for scale, you will never have to run after investors. Investors will come running after you. You would have seen in your social circles, in your circles, for every 20, 30 people that you meet who's raised money, there are at least 2 or 3 out of them who are doing some of these things right. They don't have to run to investors. Investors find them. And then valuations will always follow. So look at valuations as a derivative of the process. That will automatically come. If you're doing all the other things right, multi-billion-dollar valuations are never going to be out of reach. Thanks. Hope, happy to take questions.
It was a really informative session, sir. I guess you covered pretty much everything from the start of a business to the fruition of it. So I'll just go through some questions, if any.
Sure.
So someone has asked you to elaborate more about what is an API.
So from an API standpoint, what I meant was basically collaborative structures. So what that means is from an API thinking standpoint, where there can be connections between two companies. And typically the way these things work is about saying we are here to collaborate. And then technologically things work between the two companies and you are able to create a win-win situation by leveraging each other's strength. And then the go-to-market becomes nicer for both. So there's revenue generating faster opportunity for both.
It's like unity is strength.
Yes.
So you were speaking about how we create customer value.
Right.
But as we know, a lot of factors determine how human psyche keeps changing, like maybe some new type of governance or some literature that does come out. So how can we dynamically predict that how a customer is thinking probably and trying to market on it?
See, I think from a dynamically thinking about a customer, and I think some of you will be able to talk about some of the NLP related stuff and some of those kind of architectures that are coming in from a technology architecture standpoint. I think some of those customer insights and that customer insight layer really becomes very, very important in terms of how you're engaging with that customer on a regular basis, whether it is with your active customers or whether it is with your non-active customers, the kind of transactions that they are doing, what are they liking and what are they not liking. So that customer history that you are creating and the engagement that you keep with him continuously will help you drive what's working, what's not working, and really give you the levers of saying, am I listening to the customer? And am I in line with what his really wants are? And am I bringing in those products that he's probably wanting to take more of from me at this point in time?
But what if at times, like the product that has come out is not successful from a customer point of view, but we really don't get the chance to revert it and maybe build another something as a product?
So personally, Anirudh, I've always believed the point that you're making is more, if I get it right, is like saying, we thought this would work for the customer and we've created an application and we are ready. And now when I want to go and talk to the customer doesn't even want this product, right?
Yeah, something like that sound.
Right. So I think, and that's what I was trying to explain in my conversation. While you're thinking of these products, how sooner can you really engage with a set of customers who are potential customers, who are going to be your customers tomorrow when you're ready with the product? How do you really engage with them right up front so that you have enough of their feedback in terms of saying, and people can come in from your friend, family circle, and people that you know of. Even if you have 20, 30, 40 people from the genre of the potential customer set who will be using it, make them part of your story right up front, because that will help you really drive towards features that's what I was saying, that ultimately you want people to pay for the product, right? So they have to love your features and love your price for that feature, for that to make a meaningful impact. So the faster you make them part of your journey, you are going to be bringing in a successful product.
Okay. There's one more question. They're asking you about, you said that retaining a customer is more important than gaining new customers. So could you shed more light on it?
Both the things are important. Obviously, as a new business, as a business, you would want to gain market share, bring in new customers. What I meant when I was trying to tell you about customer engagement is very simply put. So let me just give you an example, through an example, right? Once you have acquired me as a customer, and I'll give you a very simple example. So all of us use smartphones. A lot of us, obviously, we are using computers and iPhones, right? And given the level of users today, a physiotherapist is going to be our next point of call regularly, because our hands, legs, neck, everything is going to be paining around, right? Now, if you look at it from a customer journey standpoint, and today's youngsters at who are of age 6, 7, parents are ready to give a phone, right? Now, if you look at it from a psychiatrist, physiotherapist journey, that child from age 7 to age 70 should be my customer, right? If I have come at if that family has come at that point in time. Now, look at this as an example. Now, I should be doing everything right, because I know that this customer, my solution is going to be relevant to him till the time he's alive here. It's only right. So for me, how do I ensure that from age 7 to 70, if he has come at age 7, he remains my customer? So what do I ensure to him is about saying he will have the need, so he should be there with me with the product. Why should he go to another guy if he's going to be using the same, if he's going to be using need, that service will be required for him over the next 60 years. He should not be leaving me. So that's a very, very simple answer. And if you have him for 60 years, can you tell me how many number of customers he will bring to you by just word of reference? That is customer engagement, right? So for one such customer that you can hold from age 7 to 70, you can have thousands of customers that will come to you for free. You don't have to spend for getting that customer, right? So that's a good example in that context of spending money on customer acquisition and really retaining them for life.
Yeah. So I guess it then becomes like a chain process that one brings 2, then 2, 4, and then keeps going on and on.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So there are some students who specifically want to know how important is the field of college study with respect to entrepreneurship and building an entrepreneurial mindset.
So I think from a college study and entrepreneurship, what I would surely say, and I don't think, let me just step back. I think it's very important for people to understand that it is not the same race that all of us are running, right? And in a society, you will need entrepreneurs, you will need employees, you will need great team members, you will need great scientists, you'll need all kinds of people, right? And all of us have come this far, and it does not need to be a competition between tomorrow and Anirudh wanting to become an entrepreneur versus Piyush saying, okay, I have to become one because Anirudh is becoming one, right? So it's as simply put, right? Lot of your friends wanted to come to IIT. There are enough smart friends who did not come to IIT, but they had all the wherewithal to come to IIT, right? But they wanted to do something else. Now, it has to be your calling from that standpoint in terms of if you're wanting to look at entrepreneurship. Now, the second thing is, while you are in college, how do you really engage? And that's very important. Some of the stuff that, for an example, what we are part of today is a great architecture, right? You are getting the ability to meet so many people, variety of people that the team has put through, and with various shades of life, various shades of experiences. Pick on those experiences. But while you are picking those experiences, as I was saying, design your own life, right? You have to be able to design your own life and your path. You have to decide what success means to you. What kind of, and if you are going to be in entrepreneurship, what kind of businesses are you going to think about? And think about the various solutions that you can bring under some of the frameworks. So read a lot around that. Read about successful entrepreneurs, read about successful founders, read about people who have taken companies to capital markets over time and continue to be creating shareholder value. Then the kind of example that I gave, right? You look at Mr. Kotak, right? From a banking system standpoint, his Kotak bank's market cap is far higher than 10 public sector banks put together. There are various reasons for it, but if you look at it, he created an empire out of an angel round that Mahindra put in, which is Anand Mahindra. But what a company is created, right, over time. But it is a sustainable business with sustainable blocks. So look at some of those and look at some of the role models from that perspective. And please never get swayed by people who say, okay, here is my 3-year-old startup. I raised $100 million and hence I've been on Economic Times front page 5 times. So I am the greatest guy around. They can be role models, such role models from your alumni as well, but please discount, because what's important is you have to look at it holistically. Please remember, fundraising is only one variable. The funds that they have raised is not for taking money home. The fund that has been raised is to create business. It is one of the variables that is important amongst all the variables that we have talked of. So there are 10 variables that we talked of in that conversation. So you have to look at it from that perspective. So build your thought process around that. Find mentors. People are ready to be mentors today. Gain from that experience. It's very important as you think through a few things. But thinking has to be your own, and you have to go down your own path. So create your own path. That's in a nutshell.
Sir, do you have any specific closing notes for the audience that they can take home as a message?
My closing note is very simple. Remember the one big line that is written up there: revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash flow is reality. Now, remember that until unless you are able to generate cash, and which can only be generated if you have paying customers who are paying you, nothing is going to work. And for all that to happen, there are the building blocks that we have talked about. So build the businesses small. It is not a rat race versus Anirudh competing with Piyush. It is about Anirudh competing against Anirudh on his own timeline, on his own time scale. Build businesses smartly without any shortcuts. Keep the culture and the governance part of it, what I said, as your foundation. Once you have that, you will be able to take the right steps and look at things from a customer's perspective, and at the end of it, keep converting your customer revenues into cash flow. Valuations will follow, and you guys will be multi-billionaires as you desire.
That's a really positive message at the end, sir. So I hope all of our audience remembers the line: revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash flow is reality. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks, Anirudh. Thanks, Piyush. Thanks, Amar. Thanks, everyone in the audience for listening patiently.
Okay, so I hope all of us enjoyed that talk and took the message. So let us introduce our next speaker. So our next speaker is Mr. Amar Nagaram. Today we have here Mr. Amar Nagaram with us, who is the CEO of Myntra. He's a dynamic leader responsible for executing the strategic vision of the company and is resolute towards providing an engaging and personalized shopping experience. With an experience of over 15 years in the industry, he has worked in multiple portfolios and is well known for his stupefying skills at complex problem solving. He has been working with various companies, starting with Lexmark International Incorporated and then at CNS Surety, where he built the internet's very first surety application as an application architect. He has led multiple teams throughout his career, and needless to say, all very successful. I'm sure all of you are very keen to listen to his ideas on disruptive innovation with the use of machine learning. So let's welcome Mr. Amar Nagaram. Hello, sir.
Thank you, Andred. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Awesome. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me here. It's truly an honor. Like Andrew was saying, I've played multiple roles, but especially in the last 8 years, I've been with Flipkart Group. And as part of that journey, I've been to IIT Bombay many times for hiring, and some of my best team members are from this esteemed university. So that's how my relationship has been with IIT Bombay. It's always been a great journey, and I look forward to this talk where I'm hoping to share some of the things that we are doing on our front, and hopefully we can engage in a conversation. I wish it was a live conversation with you guys in the same auditorium or the conference hall, but given all the pandemic situation, this is the best we can. But let's see how we can keep it engaging. So let me start with sharing my screen. Yeah, I hope you guys can see my, yeah. Andrew, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
So yes, this topic itself is an interesting topic, disruptive innovation use of machine learning. But innovation has been an ingredient of our journey, both Mintra and a bigger Flipkart group. Just to give a sense of what does this mean to us is we are a very strong technology team in the country today. I mean, this has been built over a decade. We have some of the best engineering minds, product minds, data scientists working for this group. Then technically speaking, anything should be possible under the sky. But we actually believe in applied innovation. And what does that actually mean is we look at our consumer problems. We try to understand our consumer as much as we can using data, using technology, using consumer research surveys, every single signal that we can lay our hands on. We try to understand our consumer. And the good part about being part of an e-commerce company is I myself is also a customer. So I myself go through a lot of pain points, and that's true for everyone at Mintra and Flipkart, and that's how we go back to our work profiles and we start solving those problems. In fact, when we are solving a problem for us, we're solving a problem for our consumers. And when we are looking at these problems, we didn't solve the problem the way it actually occurred to us. We solved the problem in a way that could open up multiple opportunities for us. Just a few examples before I really go to the machine learning side of things. During the initial stages of Flipkart, I've had the privilege to be part of Flipkart for a very long time. I've had the privilege to see the e-commerce journey grow from just about any startup to a serious business today. You can see there's a lot of interest from the traditional business houses of this country to get into e-commerce, and it would not be an exaggeration to say Flipkart kind of triggered this movement in the commerce industry. So during the initial stages of e-commerce, Flipkart had many challenges, and so was Mintra. At the time, these were two different entities. In fact, the two entities coming together was also because of the similar mindset, thought process, and more importantly, similar vision statements on how we can go disrupt the world of commerce through technology. So, which in fact brings me to the next one. This has been the mission statement ever since Mintra was founded. This was not formed in the last years. This is how much both Flipkart and Mintra have been very, very clear about how we put technology to use. And in case of Mintra, it's been clear from day one, how do we democratize fashion and lifestyle and help people look good? And the way we've been using technology, and this is what I was talking about during the initial days of Flipkart, we didn't have the third party, we didn't have the logistics company. We were using the third party logistics. And 6 out of 10 complaints that we used to get from consumer was that the delivery guy was not responding, did not leave the package at the door, did not even bother calling up the customer. I mean, you can imagine all kinds of issues. That's when we decided we will actually go with our own logistics company. And today, India's largest logistics company happens to be by an e-commerce company, which is Flipkart. And same thing with the credit card. The plastic card penetration in that country in 2011, 2012 was very, very low. In fact, to a point of insignificant amount of usage. So we went with the cash on delivery. In fact, we were the ones who showed how cash on delivery can be done in the interest of consumer and in the interest of business. Like the previous speaker was saying, it's not realized. Your revenue is not realized until you get it into your bank account. That's what we always looked as a business. That's what our technology teams always looked at it. How do we make everyone involved in this equation equally successful or equally viable for us as a business and for consumer from their point of view? In fact, we kept extending this DNA to every single problem we faced in last 10 years. We didn't wait for the infrastructure to be in its shape. We in fact leapfrogged in some of our investments in technology to circumvent the shortcomings in the infrastructure. That's what I mean by applied innovation. In fact, just on that example on cash on delivery, when this whole pandemic started, when we were looking at the safe ways of delivering products, one of the things that Myntra introduced was the contactless delivery. Absolutely no contact. Our guy will not even touch your doorbell, will not even ask for your signature. There were multiple variables based on your geo, based on your previous address, based on our profile of you as a customer. We know that the packet has reached the right place. And more importantly, when it came to payment, this time we are the first to introduce UPI on delivery. So if you can still go for cash on delivery. What it means is our SDA, our style delivery agent, will have a barcode, a QR code on the device which you can scan to pay using your UPI, be it PhonePe, Google Pay, any other UPI app. So this transition from cash on delivery to UPI on delivery is one testament to how we've been using technology to solve, in fact, to leapfrog in some of the areas. And that's true even today, and that will continue to be the same. Especially during pandemic, what we have learned is technology is the reason why we were able to scale back to our previous business levels in such a short time. Before I really go into these ML examples of what we do across different touch points, I really wanted to spend some time on what pandemic has been to our business. I'm sure you must have read COVID kind of expedited e-commerce growth in many markets. While it is true completely, it has not been true for every e-commerce player. Again, there were two kinds of e-commerce players. E-commerce players who were truly using technology as a means to sell products, e-commerce players who were using technology to understand the customer better. The guys who actually put all their efforts to understand the customer better are the ones who emerged stronger in this pandemic. I'll tell you an example. When the lockdown started, when our Honorable Prime Minister requested or asked the entire country to go into the lockdown, we were one of the first companies to go to a work from home mode, even before that announcement was made, because we wanted to be safe and we wanted none of our employees to be exposed to any of the pandemic effects that were going on at the time. We were one of the first organizations to transition to work from home seamlessly. What do I mean by that? Today, a 3,000 strong workforce is completely working from home. We have very few presence in areas where you absolutely have to have people on the ground. These are the warehouses and the catalog photo studios. In fact, even in the photo studio, we have trained our models to prepare themselves for the photo shoots. There is no contact whatsoever. I also show some models on how we are applying technology to make sure there is a social distancing being practiced religiously across all the functions where people are on the floor. So we also happen to do India's first major event in an end of season sale once the lockdown has been lifted. It was something that the industry did not believe that we were able to, or we can be doing it at that scale given the sentiment in the market. But we knew we could be pulling together the right brands in line with the consumer sentiment and drive this kind of momentum. And all of this was done from home. So that's the kind of technology preparedness the organization has always been at. And that's the reason why I take so much pride in talking about technology at Myntra. Just a bit about myself. I've been an engineer all my life. I've done my bachelor's and master's in computer science, and I've pretty much been part of technology teams across the board until Flipkart put me into a business role. I didn't know I was actually heading towards heading a business, but one thing led to the other, and that's one thing about Flipkart Group, and for that matter, any startup in this country. There are multiple opportunities around us. It's up to us how we grab these opportunities. So the opportunity came my way, and when I first took over the role of Myntra CEO, it was very, very clear to me from the board that how do we put technology to take Myntra to the next level. And my job has fairly been easy because this is the mission statement from day one. So technology has been embedded into everything we do. So that's a bit of history before I really go into how we use machine learning, deep learning, and how we are on a path to change the experience, as we all knew how the e-commerce existed. In fact, if you look at all the touch points, there were like hundreds of cases which I wanted to actually talk about. Then in the interest of time, I said, okay, let's look at the major ones. So if you look at the touch points we have today, right from the inventory planning to how we expose the inventory and how we store the inventory and how we deliver the inventory. I mean, this is pretty much the crux of what we do as an e-commerce player. But I also take pride in saying that Myntra is just not an e-commerce player. Myntra is more of a fashion tech player, which is where if you see these touch points are similar to any e-commerce player, but this is where we differentiate ourselves. We apply the lens of fashion to it and see how we can be better as a business, and more importantly, how we can stay relevant to our consumer. In fact, some of my slides are going to be on these topics, where I would like to actually, help you understand the gravity of the situation and why it is very important that we apply some of the deep learning methodologies to solve these problems. And e-commerce, when it started, the whole idea was like it's an infinite aisle. You can find everything under the sky. Like I said, I'm one of the very few privileged to follow the e-commerce journey from a very close encounters, very close quarters. And one of the things that we have also realized as part of being the largest e-commerce in this country is too many products is also a challenge for our customers to decide on what is the right one. That's when the need for personalization, need for recommendations became much larger than what it was before. In fact, by just getting into the planning and designing, it's actually about what you get onto your platform. We are a marketplace. We work with hundreds and thousands of brands across the globe. Virtually, technically speaking, we can list everything under the sky, but will that help our consumers? Will that help our business? So which is where some of our machine learning models come into play. We look at the global national trends, and there are multiple sources of this. And this is going to be a journey. There are a lot of signals out there across the globe which will help understand what is going to trend, what is trending, what trended 6 months ago, what is the relationship between these trends, what is the weather going to be, what is the kind of the GDP growth a country is going to see. So it just defines all right signals to help our planning team, our buying team to go look at the right kind of inventory. And when we tell our brands that, hey, you don't have to list everything you have. In fact, to be effective, you can list these things on our platform. That's how our journey with inventory started. But today I'm proud to say that we are working with two of the biggest international global brands where we are helping them actually build the right inventory, manufacture the right inventory. Why do you think this is important for an e-commerce player? Why do you think this is important for the fashion industry? I don't know if you know the fashion industry. There are 2 or 3 major problems the industry has been facing for a very long time. The biggest one is the excess inventory, which leads to the second problem. There is always a discount on fashion, which leads to the third problem, which encourages the fast fashion, which means there are a lot of stuff that are being thrown out into recycle. And you know, the fashion doesn't get recycled, it actually goes into landfill, which is causing a different problem altogether. So how do we address this problem? And so we started looking at this problem because we as an e-commerce player, we also started seeing this problem. And we told our brand partners to have this much inventory on the platform. And then at the end of the season, we realized we were not able to sell everything. That's when we started understanding the trends. We started understanding the consumers better. We started understanding every possible signal that could tell us what is the right kind of inventory we should be having. It's not just about the styles, it's also about how much you get in each style. And the fashion is actually, at a very, very broad level, there are 2 types of fashion. So the core fashion, where you can take the depth bet, but on the fast fashion, you really don't know. If you have less, you will lose out on the business. If you have more, you will be left with the unsold inventory. So what is that magic number? Then we started looking at the big picture. Is this a problem that we are facing, or is this a problem even the manufacturers are facing? It's the brand. Turns out to be, like, for example, there was a report in Business of Fashion magazine that H&M is sitting on a $4 billion unsold inventory. Imagine the kind of working capital that got stuck because of unsold inventory. What if we knew what to make a year ahead? And just to give a sense of how the fashion industry works is there is a designer who's sitting across, halfway away from us, potential market, a year ahead of when this would actually hit the market, designing what he or she thinks would sell in this market a year from now. And as you can imagine, there are so many assumptions and so many variables that can go wrong. And that's the reason why the success of runaway fashion, which is a super hit versus something that doesn't move, is almost like a gamble today. We looked at how the designers think, and then we looked at all the other signals where the consumer demand comes from. And that's how we brought a model together where today we are working with two of the global brands to help them. This is the kind of inventory you should be making for India, and this is how much you should be making. And it's not there yet completely, but it's better than what it used to be, and it's going to be a journey as and when we understand. Pandemic on one side changed some of these algorithms. People didn't have enough reasons to step out, so the occasion-led fashion, the mass gathering kind of fashion, just almost disappeared in last 4 months. People want workwear, athleisure wear, lounge wear, work from home wear. So some of these signals have to be ingested into our learning models to understand how we keep in tune with what's really happening. That's what I meant by the journey. And today we are one of the very, very few players in the market across the globe who are actually applying technology to make sure both our business and our consumers get the relevant stuff. If we can actually, what Myntra is doing right now is we're playing a very responsible platform of marrying the right demand with the relevant the manufacturers so that we get the right kind of selection into the market. So this is one set of problem statements that we're dealing with when it comes to the design. And this is one of the reasons why there are like tens of fashion platforms in this country, and yet people love to come to Myntra is because everyone's homepage, which brings me to the next topic, which we call as storefront, is very relevant and personalized. Whether you notice or not, there are a lot of signals we take to understand who you are as a user. We put our best to figure out what could this user like on our platform within the selection we carry. If you actually, if you're a first-time user, let me tell you what kind of signals we take. If you're a first-time kind of user, and if you're coming from a Wi-Fi connection, which we've seen before, like if, for example, if you're working from an office and your colleague came from the same Wi-Fi signal, which means that you could be working at that office, your device is a 40,000 rupee device. So it gives us a signal of, okay, this user is a premium user, could be on the brand affinity side. So we keep building customer cohorts to see how we can show the right and relevant stuff. And that's one of the reasons why our homepage is one of the most loved homepages of any other e-commerce app. It's simple, elegant, but more importantly, it's very, very relevant. And there are a lot of cold signals and some of these very hard signals, which is basically your purchase behavior, which gives us a very clear signal of what kind of brands you like, what size you are, and these things. But most of the time, it's the first-time users who are coming to the platform. That is where the machine learning helped us understand the first-time buyers also. And everything that you do on our app or on our website is a signal. If you're going down the scroll page, if you stopped at a product, it's a proxy for us to know that this product had something that caught your attention. If you're just scrolling too fast, which means none of these things have caught your attention. So in a way, everything you do on a digital platform is telling us who you are as a user. We might not know who you are as a user, but we're trying to understand how we can actually put you into a cohort of similar kind of users so that we can show you the relevant stuff. And this is something that Myntra has actually exceeded very well in the last few years. And this is not just understanding of the consumer, it's also understanding of the fashion. Fashion is one such category where there is no dearth of brands. It's not like phones where you're either a Samsung user, an Apple user, or an MI user. In fashion, people evolve from one brand to the other because there's always a new thing that each brand is competing to bring, and there is no a standard set or a finite set of styles. So it's also important for us as a platform to understand how the fashion is evolving, how the consumer interests are evolving, and how can we marry these two signals together. That brings us to the next problem, which is a problem which I can proudly say nobody else is even close to solving the size and fit problem as we are. I think most of the problems, most of the platforms try to guess, I would say, guesstimate the size of the consumer based on the previous purchases. But in fashion, that is where you need to apply the fashion sense. It's not just the size, it's also the fit. Me and my cousin, we are almost the same size, same physique, but our fit preferences are completely different. He would like to wear a slightly tighter to his body, while I would like to wear actually a bit looser from the body. So there are multiple things that we need to understand about the consumer. Again, the kind of fit that we show on our catalog information and the kind of signals we collect from the users also go into these models. Like if you look at this on the left side, we are talking about a size recommendation, and it's not just a size recommendation. I mean, this person could be a large fitting person, but we're still recommending XL based on the size and fit model that we have come up with. And we are doing multiple efforts to understand what is your size preference, what is your fit preference. And again, the pandemic has thrown a wrench at it. Loungewear and the comfort wear, they usually, it's not really a size and fit issue here. I mean, one size larger, people don't mind. So again, the models are learning from it. The other one is on the payment mode. I mean, you've taken for the first time, when you come to the platform the first time, you've taken multiple steps to tell us that, or in a way, to make the payment, which is also telling us that this is your preferred mode of payment. We also apply the lens of what's happening in the payment gateways. If there are any payment gateways that are failing, why even bother you to take you through a payment gateway which might fail and which might leave you in this anxiety whether my money was processed, whether my order was processed. So we are proactive in many ways to help our consumers. See, the idea of this is to give the consumers the right kind of selection and the best possible experience with, most important, the trust element. As when I go to Myntra, it's all taken care. Excuse me. This this is one more thing I was talking about, but warehousing, this is one of the functions where some of our frontline warriors, our XC employees and our delivery agents are on the floor. In fact, these are the people who kept us alive during the lockdown and during the pandemic. So we felt it was very important that we make sure their safety is taken care, and we apply technology here. If you look at this model, using the CCTV camera feeds, we are able to stay in compliance with the social distancing norms. There is always an active model running on the live CCTV feed to tell if there is a social distancing violation, so that the people on the floor can quickly act on it, avoid any such violations, and not give any chance for any kind of spread. And this is one example of how we are not just keeping technology to just a business. For us, it's the three important players, three important stakeholders as a business. It's our consumers, our brand partners, and our employees. So that's what I've been talking about. Our brand partners are getting the help from us as a fashion tech player on how they can do their business in a very optimal way. Our consumers are getting the right and relevant selection and making sure their experience on the platform is well taken care. Our employees, in addition to tons of people-centric policies we have, we're applying technology to make sure our employees are safe and are going through the best safety practices that any organization can put forward at this time. The last one on the warehousing, this has actually been a much deeper problem with the fashion space. Again, I'll refresh memory a bit. In fashion, the challenge is how many you make as a brand, and as an e-commerce player, how many you inboard into the system. While we are a marketplace player, we do store inventory for our brand partners so that the distance that it travels once the order is placed is less. Instead of collecting from the brand warehouses, we keep it in our warehouse so that the SLAs are much smaller for our consumers. Then it brings out the most complex question: what inventory to keep and how much inventory to keep. We try to actually minimize the flow that happens here, but it is more complex than what it looks like. In terms of the kind of inventory that we request our brand partners to store with us, it depends on multiple variables, but I'm just calling out 4 or 5 here. to give a sense of what goes into it. And then we also look at the demand generation. There is tons of things that can happen. South India shops differently from North India, East shops differently from the West. There could be rains in the West. It's winter coming in the North. The kind of country we are, which is it's a kind of a vertical country, the climatic differences are also extreme. So we need to take every single signal into the play to see how we place inventory in our warehouse. And in fact, our warehouses are also spread across the country. And the idea is to reduce the time and the distance the inventory travels from the time the order has been placed until it reaches the consumer. This also talks about how we expose the inventory to our consumers without compromising on the quality of the relevance that we put forward to them. So at the end, what we are trying to do is, again, there's a lot of machine learning at play here to understand what kind of inventory we place, how do we place, which FC to place so that the most of the SLA are better than what the competition can do at this point of time. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of data play here. Again, the idea of showing some of these examples is this is the time when the businesses are becoming more and more data savvy. But it doesn't end there. It's not about the data analytics. It's actually about data intelligence, and that's what we are doing at Myntra. There are multiple such examples. In fact, there are a lot of things I didn't talk about. We have started Omni as a new channel of business. Again, this is the new retailing that we talk about, where in the last end of season event that we did when the brands came together, one of the things we've also noticed is the stores did not do any business because of pandemic. So for this event, we got close to 700 stores onto the platform and delivered the orders from the stores. The advantage the customers had was they were getting the fresh inventory. They were getting the inventory faster than what it usually takes because it's coming from the store nearby. But if you think of this problem statement, it's not as simple as getting the inventory and listing it on a portal like Myntra. We need to understand where the customer is, what the customer is looking for, what are the relevant stores, relevant brands. And fashion, again, there's only a small section of users who go by brand. The majority of section goes by the style. And this style is what makes it similar across the brands. Most of the brands carry the similar brands. So we need to make sure which brands we show and what are those brand stores that are close to the consumer. So again, there has to be a lot of learning that had to be done. And given, and there was one more angle that came into it during pandemic, which is basically which of these zones are in red zone. We can't be taking order for a store which is in a red zone. So there were a lot of variables, a lot of signals that had to go into our model in real time. And the way we delivered this, it's actually giving a new momentum to offline stores. And this is the first time, and I can proudly say, for the first time, it's no longer about offline versus online. Offline and online coming together to serve the customer, and technology enabled. So we are in a time when we cannot afford to be non-digital, and Myntra is leading the way in terms of at least the fashion tech platform and helping all the fashion brands leverage the power of data, understand the consumer better, and be a very optimal business or a more effective business for the kind of consumers they serve. So this is one last thing I also wanted to talk about. Extending on the employee thing, we have last mile delivery agents, and this is one of the models which is very innovative to Myntra. Our last mile delivery agents are the small kirana stores. The guy who could be delivering your packet is a kirana store guy from your own neighborhood. They are not Myntra employees. 2 years before, we decided that there are a lot of kirana stores across the country when they don't have any business for a few hours through the day. We thought we could leverage them, and in a way we could empower the small, medium businesses. So when these guys come, the reason why I had to give that thing is they're not our employees, so some of our norms might not even apply to them. But again, we made sure that we put in technology, we put in protocols to make sure that these guys are also following the safety protocols. So whenever they enter our hub to pick up the inventory, there are models watching out for people who are not wearing the mask, making sure these delivery guys are always following the protocol, so the package is delivered very safely to our consumers. In fact, one of the models that we've also done is to make sure we call them Mensa partners to see what kind of behaviors the Mensa partners exhibit before they become disengaged with the platform, so that we can proactively work with them. So the models have been at work to help our Mensa partners also stay safe and stay engaged with our platform, and making sure our employees and our consumer safety is also taken care. So again, I can keep going on and on about the usage of technology. This is where I would actually like to take a stop and see if there are any questions on what I can answer, especially how I see as a CEO of the company the role of technology, and not as a technologist, which has been my previous life. But happy to bring both the worlds together, and that's exactly what I'm doing at Myntra. So I would love to take questions from here on. Like I said, there are hundreds of things that we are doing more than what I showed. If there are any specific questions on any topics, happy to get into those details as well. And if there is any technical detail that audience would love to know, happy to engage on that. That's the side where I would always be excited to share. Thank you. Thanks for having me here. Happy to hear any questions the audience has for me.
Hello, sir. That's a really nice talk. So one of them have asked about what does route optimization actually mean? They want you to shed more light on.
Sure. So there's actually, that's a very good question. The problem actually doesn't start with what is the best route our delivery agent should take. It actually starts right from the inventory inwarding, which is a problem I kind of touched upon. What inventory, where do we place the inventory so that it is closer to the demand segment? Since I talked about it, I'll talk about the next problem, which is basically, actually, let me start with the consumer side of the problem. In India, the same address is written in multiple ways. There is no standard to writing an address. There was this viral thing on LinkedIn a month ago where somebody literally wrote a story to get to their house. You go to this theater, take a left, go behind the theater, there is Devi temple, from there take a left, and then like it was a complete story. And if this story has to be understood by a human being, then the scale at which we operate, we cannot be putting so many heads to this problem. So our models have learned to understand the addresses, even if it is in a form that is not recognized as an address. The most common problem is the PIN code being wrong. My PIN code, I always put it wrong for some reason, and the packet gets routed somewhere else. We wanted to minimize those problems. So there is again, there are a lot of models at play which helps our consumers correct the address while they are typing the address itself. But we will not force the customer to change the address based on our model, so which actually means there could be a room for error. When it comes to into our systems once again apply the filter, normalize it for any violations in how the address has been recorded, and we kind of route it through our system so that the packet is traveling the right path and the optimal path. And when it comes to route optimization, once our delivery guys are out, there are 10. They are not actually taking from point A to point B. They're going from point A to B, C, D, E, and F. And some of you must have heard of traveling salesman problem. It's more or less like that, but the fact, this is very important, is our delivery guys they do call our customers at the beginning of the trip to make sure they're available at home. So that is a signal that needs to go into the system, who's available, who's not available. Based on that, we also give an updated route so that our delivery agents are not just going around in circles and just going, because they also have a business to run. Like I said, these are all the kirana store guys, and if you keep them busy for the entire day, their primary business might go for it all. So that's what we meant by how we optimize the route of inventory and how we optimize the travel time for our delivery agents, so that end of the day, there's not enough, time and energy lost in transporting this goods to our consumers.
I assume that was a really good explanation, and hope that everyone got about it. It's actually a very great model, actually, in my perspective. helping them to build on something that they're not familiar with, and at the same time using it very conveniently. It's really a nice idea. I'll just check if there are any other doubts. So someone has asked that from a legal perspective, there's a new rule which states that the country of origin must be shown. So what do you do with such products? Is there any protocol that you use?
Sure. Actually, that brings up one more topic, the cataloging, the way we do. Myntra is one of the very few players across the globe which has a rich cataloging on fashion. And that is not, I mean, if you look at the information on any product we have on Myntra, it's not entirely what the brand is giving us, because if the brand was giving this information, then all the portals that carry this inventory should have the same information. There are a lot of computer vision based models that extract attributes from the image. There are multiple things like the silhouette to the cut, the crop, the neckline. Some of these things brands don't even give. I mean, they can't be doing this at scale. So we apply the models. That is the reason why our catalog is the most informative catalog today. And the way we do the photo shoot is also based on our learning from what consumers would like to see. Within the ethnic wear, if you look at kurtis versus saris, kurti, women care about the neckline, women care about the embroidery around the neckline, women care about the sleeve, the kind of finish. When it comes to sari, it's about the pallu, it's about the border. So the guy who's actually doing the photo shoot, he doesn't have to remember which one it's doing. It's the model that is suggesting that if it is this product, you need to take these shoots, and if this is this product, you need to take these shoots. This is how we've been trying to make the catalog as enriching as possible. As part of that, from a very long time, Myntra has been one of the very few platforms again to also list the country of origin. We already have the country of origin as part of our product information, and we've been doing this for a very, very long time. It did not start for us when that discussion started with the government of India. We've been doing it for a long time, and there's something we furnish based on all the details we have on the brand and the kind of product that is being, or the country where it's being imported from.
Thank you for the wonderful session, sir. We are done with all our questions as well. It was really a very insightful session, especially with the data analytics part of it. And I hope everyone learned quite a few technical aspects of how businesses run. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Our next speaker is Mr. Bhaskar Gorti, the president of Nokia Software. So Nokia has a really powerful software base, including but not limited to providing cloud-native, multi-vendor, multi-network software solutions. Mr. Gorti also serves as the Chief Digital Officer to accelerate Nokia's business and information technology modernization. Mr. Gorti grew up in Mumbai. While he did not study at IIT Bombay, he has spent a lot of time on the campus and also on the nearby cricket field. He went to NIT Warangal to complete his BTech in electrical engineering. He then earned a master's degree in electrical engineering from Virginia Tech, after which he worked extensively in the software industry with a career spanning across A-list software companies like Oracle, Portal Software, Cordiant, Hewlett-Packard, and Alcoa. He leads over 4,000 employees in India and is constantly looking for great talent. With his encompassing vision over the pace of software development in a 5G world, I'm certain you all are very eager to hear from him. So let's welcome Mr. Bhaskar Gorti once again.
Good afternoon or good evening. Thank you. So I hope you can see the slides. Heather must have shared them with you.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay. So first of all, thank you and welcome everyone. I'm very honored to be here. I wish I could be there in person. As said, I grew up in Mumbai and went to school there. Very familiar. Of course, the campus must have changed over the last few decades. One of the things is I'm very passionate about the technology and more importantly, the impact it's having on our world today, especially in these times. At the same time, I'm extremely passionate, as said, about people and the potential to innovate. And if there's one thing that I want to leave you with is, we are always looking for how do we learn from and build great talented teams around the world. Of course, I have a very large team in India, but we are creating innovation globally for global customers of ours. Over the last few, I would say decades, or last decade especially, I have noticed some very big change. And the change is the pace of change. The pace of change of technology has accelerated. I haven't seen anything yet, and you haven't seen anything yet. So to illustrate this point, I want to share a story you may have already heard, but I found it very interesting to articulate the velocity and the pace of change. Once upon a time, the inventor of chess took his game to the show of the Emperor of India. The Emperor was pleased, and he asked the inventor to name his reward. The inventor said, "My wish is simple. Give me 1 grain of rice for the first square of the chessboard, 2 grains for the next square, 4 for the next, and so on for all the 64 squares." The emperor agreed. I'm guessing you can do the math and see the issue he was about to face. As the squares on the chessboard filled with rice, the emperor realized his mistake. It has 64 squares. The amount of rice on the first 32 squares is large, but an amount you can still grasp. On the second half of the chessboard, the numbers grow so quickly, they become unimaginable. The 64th square would have a mound of rice bigger than Mount Everest. The second half of the board would have more than 4 billion times the amount of rice was on the first half. That is the inability to understand the exponential function. The emperor grasped the issue and he had the inventor beheaded. What does this have to do with us today? The growth of technology industry is a lot like the grains of rice on the chessboard. It's exponential. At first, it may not seem like much, but that eventually changes. In the computing industry, mainframes to PCs and now to smartphones and AI and machine learning to automation to self-driving cars. And now we're even talking about flying cars. Who knows what comes next? With each development wave, we have seen exponential advances. So one of the reasons, and that intrigues me quite a bit. And we've been thinking about this problem. The exciting thing for entrepreneurs like you is the exponential change that will disrupt markets and create new opportunities. The big changes in the service adoption in the last years, especially now, the communications industry is built on exponential functions like Moore's law. We're used to that growth, but we aren't used to the accelerating pace of disruption yet. It's changing the game for business leaders, technologists, and the people using the technology, whether it's a large global business like ours, like Nokia, or an individual gaming at home. While we think the pace is fast, it'll never be this slow again. You must be ready as entrepreneurs to disrupt these markets, and that disruption starts with yourself. Just a decade or so ago, think about the iPhones and all social media apps to Tesla. They used technologies to create and change markets permanently. Recently, I'm as you can tell, a science buff, and I did miss watching it on TV growing up in India the first time man went on the moon. So therefore, I was extremely curious about the most recent launch that happened with SpaceX. Of course, the first time it got delayed, but I was stuck to the TV like watching a sport live. And I was really in awe of the SpaceX launch of the Falcon 9. Why? Not because they went to space and came back, is the launch, the control, the flight systems were designed from the very start for automation through the entire mission. The astronauts didn't have to touch the controls 95 to 99% of the time. Just imagine that. That is bold. That is ambitious. The SpaceX team moved us all on another square on the chessboard. If they can automate a space shuttle, what can we do? We are at the beginning of the 5G era. And that's what excites us. Are we ready? Are you ready with your brilliant ideas and your entrepreneurial spirit? Are you ready to disrupt the industry for the next 100 years? Now, if either we are ready or we are not, the disruption is coming. We are seeing evidence of that right now. We talk about 3 sources of disruption today. It's always omnipresent disruption of competition. You have noticed it in India in terms of how the industry has been dramatically changed with new entrants. 5G, which is still yet to be granted licenses in India, but it is happening. It has started globally in North America, South Korea, Japan, and a few places, other parts of the world, and it'll very soon come to India. So 5G is going to disrupt, not just person-to-person communication or social media. It's going to disrupt industries. Now, none of us thought in early part of this year that, nobody, if I was talking about it, if somebody said, hey, 2010 or 2015, you said, what would you imagine you would be doing in 2020? I don't think any of us said that we would be sitting in our homes for the last 4, 5, 6 months, conducting business, educating ourselves, and at the same time, engaging with our friends and family. So COVID-19 has definitely disrupted the industry, and this is going to change things once and for all. So these 3 factors put together, 5G, competition, and this new way of life post-COVID-19 is going to create another huge disruption for us. So from Nokia's point of view, what we focus on is what is the disruption that 5G can bring. Sure, the networks will become much faster. They'll be more capable. They will have the power to drive the next industrial revolution. We're at the cusp of some of the very exciting new use cases. So the magic of 5G is going to be in the combinations and possibilities. It opens to those that think creatively. This technology and this new wave will embark a disruption and a change across all industries. It's not going to be just about communications. It's going to be how we grow things. How do we take care of health? How do we do business? How do we entertain ourselves? How do we secure our homes and our countries? So it's going to be pervasive across. So as I would tell you, one of the key things I find very interesting in terms of being mission critical, all of us have smartphones and those apps get updated periodically. We don't think about it twice. But if it breaks, you reinstall. But think about automation in cars like Tesla. It is life critical when you get behind the wheel. And it updates itself over the air, and it's going and adds new functions, fixes things, and you don't think twice and you drive in that. Take it to the next level. Launching satellites and launching astronauts all the way to space and bring them back safely and land is another huge disruption that is ahead of us. So how can these kinds of things, bring disruption to us in the coming years? And then we talk about competition. And in fact, the new entrants, the entrepreneurs, are going to create the next generation of competitors that we currently in the industry can't even think about. You can definitely disrupt and completely change markets. You will create new markets, and the communications industry is ripe for disruption. Let me share a couple of our own experiences with some customers around the world. You may have heard about Rakuten in Japan, a country that has had very strong communications infrastructure for many decades. Population is not growing a lot. So there comes a new entrant who's an e-commerce web player, Rakuten, and comes from retailing. And they venture into the world of communications in a very different way. They decided that they'll use a completely virtualized end-to-end cloud-based network from the ground up, with intelligence and automation built natively. They are offering prices way below the other players and disrupting the market. Here in North America, another market that is quite saturated and population is not changing. So why would a new operator come into the play? So we have a new operator coming in, Dish, who's actually a satellite and TV service provider. They are building their own greenfield network of 5G. And the way they're going is they're taking it a step further. They're using public cloud technologies, have an opportunity to work with both Rakuten and then Dish. And an example that has been talked about globally, everywhere in the world, as a true disruptor in global communications industry is Geo. I think wherever we go in the world, we hear about examples of Geo and people wanting to see how they're building the nationwide network, how are they partnering, how are they giving free trials, how are they attracting millions of subscribers that has really brought, I would say, communications to majority of the population. And in the past few months, they've raised a lot of money from global players, not just to bring more services to the communications industry, but to permanently look at how 5G can change infrastructure moving forward. We are also seeing movements coming from Google, Amazon Web Services, Azure. It's only a matter of fact and time that virtualized and cloud native will become the default way. Nobody, if you think about it, in any computing paradigm, once a new paradigm takes hold, you almost forget about the old paradigm. Take younger kids, toddlers today. When you put a screen in front of them, what do they do first? If they want to change anything, they use their finger, right? The concept of using an external device has completely changed. So I think what's going to happen is these new technologies will permanently change how communication services, infrastructure services are created, delivered, secure, and scaled with an unprecedented innovation and agility. And unfortunately, we all have been globally hit by COVID-19. So I hope all of you are safe and your families and friends are safe. This is creating a massive disruption with a huge impact in so many areas of our life. The rapid shift from working from home, for example, in my other role as the Chief Digital Officer of the company, we have 100,000 employees worldwide. And usually a company like ours has 10, 15, 20, 25 sites around the world. Take India as an example. We have large sites in Bangalore, Chennai, Gurgaon, Noida. And I myself have about 4,000, 5,000 team members, R&D team members in India. And previously our concern was how to bring productivity and connectivity to them. But now every home is a site. And that not only pushes us towards connectivity and broadband, but more importantly, security. Security is becoming a huge issue because the endpoints are proliferating. In the 5G world, anything that can be an endpoint will be an endpoint. Anything that can get onto the network will get onto the network. We're all working from home, telemedicine. Look at this conference that we are having over video. I'm here sitting in San Jose in Silicon Valley, and you're spread all over India, we are attending events like this. This will become the new normal. I would not have thought, if I look at in the last 6 months or 5 months, I have met more of my customers. I've had more interaction with my team members, of course, all behind this screen in this room, than I would have done in a 5-month window because of travel, logistics, and such. So this is going to become in some form a new normal. This pandemic has accelerated our digital agenda much faster than Moore's Law. We have moved another space on the chessboard in the last 7 months. So one of the key things that I am doing, and our company Nokia is doing, that we are deciding where to invest in our software R&D budgets for our people to be very early in their careers, need to embrace the digital transformation and lead in at an exponential pace, or we will be left behind. So one of the key things that I have been noticing about companies is, what do disruptive companies or disruptive entrepreneurs have things in common? I think the first and the fundamental thing that they have in mind is a growth mindset. They are not focused on protecting the past. If anything, they are trying to change the past. How do they leverage technology and innovation to drive forward? They're always looking to do things better and to grow. It's actually not a business strategy or a corporate strategy or an institutional strategy. It's a personal strategy and a mental ability and mentality of growth. Technology is now at the core of a business driver. We are investing in Nokia to improve every aspect of our business: automation, process, cloud. We have a very strong R&D agenda, which helps us give our customers a competitive advantage. From a software point of view, I'm sure you're all familiar with all the buzzwords: cloud, automation, AI, human-centric design. The disruptors understand the power of technology and use it to their advantage. That's another key quality we have seen among digital disruptors. And the third thing that we believe strongly that is needed is a relentless focus on customer. The best companies spend a lot of time understanding their customer and anticipating, not meeting their needs, anticipating what they will need. So we and my team, we're investing a lot in this area to help our customers imagine what they can do to provide a delightful customer experience. And all of this, agile companies, entrepreneurs like you, speed and agility is an extremely important aspect of it, because there is no monopoly for innovation. Anybody can come up with the idea. So therefore, the speed and agility with which you bring disruption, keeping the customer in mind, and natively thinking on how to change a market or to create a new market is what we are focused on. And all along, I think one of the key things that we have learned is the intelligence has to be driven from inside, i.e. business intelligence or analytics. We at Nokia also have Bell Labs. So we have been a pioneer all the way from transistor, silicon, to Unix, to nowadays AI and ML. We have pioneered many machine learning and artificial intelligence concepts in the industry. And we have the benefit in Nokia to take those Bell Lab innovations and bring that into products that can be used by our customers to truly differentiate themselves. So that is becoming an extremely important asset that we have in our company, to take these pioneering technologies, pioneering ideas. Bell Labs, I think we have 8 or 9 Nobel Prize winners in technology. How do we take those things and bring into products that our customers can use, whether it's in communications, whether it's in healthcare agencies, governments? All of them are trying new ways to differentiate themselves. So I think what I want to say is, as a software team member at Nokia, I have over 16,000 people worldwide. I would say half of them are in R&D, and our biggest R&D organization is in India, and we're building products there globally. So I don't know if the Entrepreneurial Cell asked me to come here to say this, but when I got the invite, one of my interests that piqued me is how can we get you excited and you entrepreneurs to team up with you to build great products that will permanently change the industry. Recently Deloitte, a global technology leader, did a study of how traditional technology environments are shrinking, the need to creativity, the need for cognitive intelligence, and more importantly these days, emotional intelligence. We will let machines do what they do best and make our uniquely human attributes even stronger. These are the traits I'm always pushing myself to develop, and they're the ones that matter when we hire and when I hire. When you think about it, soft skills make sense because the business of innovation and disruption and change is human at its core. So I know we are short in time and I'm the last batsman for you today. So my question to you is, are you ready for the second half of the chessboard? Therein lies the challenge for all of us. Playing on the second half of the chessboard is a completely different game that one has played the last few decades. This is to your advantage as you start out in your careers. Like the emperor counting the rice, the first half wasn't too tough. The second half is where the compounding effect will have a profound impact on all of us. It can be scary for many people, but we have decided to compete by using technology, and that's a big opportunity. The game is far from over, and the biggest changes are yet to come. And now the big question is, eagerly looking forward to you as entrepreneurs and leaders and innovators, are you ready for the second half of the chessboard? Thank you. I'll give it back to you.
Thank you very much for the session, sir. It was really very informative. And I hope everyone realizes the importance of having to play for the second half of the chessboard. It seems that there are no many questions or anything. So I guess, yeah.
Okay. All right. I appreciate it. And you all have our contact. So please, if any questions come up or any interest, I look forward to hearing from all of you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, sir. For the audience, we are not done yet. We have our networking session to come up. So yes, we'll start it. I would request you all to put up. Okay. I guess someone is asking about personal questions. Kindly refrain asking questions anymore on the chat because the speaker has gone.